My toxic entitled friend starts spreading false rumors about me in a way that is seriously damaging to my reputation. So I decide to get some revenge by quite literally ruining their lives in a way that they truly will never recover from. Here's what happened. So me and one of my best friends have been friends for nearly a decade. For reference, I'm a 22-year-old male and he's a 21-year-old male. We both share the same group of friends at a venue we both attended, but most of them were closer to him and had known him for longer than they had known me. We had, prior to this revenge, had a disagreement with him claiming I had lied about something, which he wouldn't even tell me about, as well as me calling him out for being constantly hours late whenever I arranged to spend time with him, and me finding out that he was leaving me out of group hangouts secretly. Now, I found out that after our argument, he went around the venue spreading rumors, and mind you, he could not find a scrap of evidence of anything. So I asked the staff of the venue that we attended to ask him to stop, but forgetting they were close friends of his, they made up excuses which they refused to tell me and banned me from the venue. And it was at this moment that my revenge began. First, I got in contact with a lawyer who drafted and sent him a cease and desist notice. He initially responded to accuse me of faking the letter, but was then sent a signed email copy and asked by the lawyer to advise to his position, at which point he left my lawyer on read. And it was on the next day that I found out he was still spreading rumors. So, unknown to him at the time, I took screenshots of years worth of text messages and was given the phone number for the Department of Fraud. As it turns out, I had collected information about him taking study assistant payments for an entire year while not attending class. This alone could mean that he has to pay back $10,000+ on top of a substantial fine as well as possible prison time. Secondly, I had text messages from him using, if you know what I mean, and distributing said illegal substance from the house that he rents with a few former friends. So I, of course, sent these to the police and had a long phone conversation with them about his substance use. Luckily for me, using some of my connections, I found the address and contact information of his landlord, and I'm arranging to send a detailed letter with all of the evidence in tow. Third, I had text messages of him admitting to drinking and driving, and he is now being watched by the police on weekends when he goes out, because on top of the drunk driving, he has lost his license prior due to speeding and causing an accident. Now, to add to my revenge against him, I felt the need to take revenge on the venue manager who ignored the harassment against me and instead kicked me out to spare his friend's punishment. So I found 5 people willing to testify that this manager uses the venue to buy and sell illegal substances, has told people to drink and drive in order to get more sales, as well as spiking sober people's drinks with alcohol. On top of recording 5 statements from different people and sending them to the police, I also filed a liquor complaint form and sent that to the appropriate authorities. Now, to add to this even further, I found out who lied on my former friend's behalf to get me removed and who was spreading rumors about me, and then I found screenshots and people willing to testify against them about the substance dealing and various other incidents. And now it's just a waiting game. And for those of you who think that I may have gone too far by getting him in trouble with the government for fraud or even the police for substances, I sent him a personal letter with a lawyer's statement saying that I would not proceed with charges of any kind should he apologize and tell the venue staff he lied in order to get me removed. But since he left me on red, I see that as a warning ignored, which really justifies why I'm choosing to take this route. Wow, I love this story because you know what? These people were playing with fire from the beginning. Seriously, these guys were not good people in the slightest, and they very clearly pissed off the wrong person. Like, what in the world was going on at that venue? First of all, I would never go there again if that really is what's going on there. Like, that sounds like a sketchy place and not a good thing in the slightest. So to me, I think the fact that you're reporting all these people, in my opinion, honestly is not a bad idea, because these people were very clearly bad-mouthing you in a way that was damaging to your reputation, and I truly think that you have every right to defend that no matter what. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend overheard a comment made by my mom that he literally did not like, and now, as a result, he is refusing to talk to me about it and is even going as far as saying that we're done. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, long story short, I was on my phone with my boyfriend and was going out to grab some dinner. My mom made a comment saying, "Hey, I know you have a boyfriend, but is there any cute guys in your classes?" And when I heard this, I was honestly so caught off guard by this question. Another family member was in the room, so I knew it was a question more so coming from them because they didn't know yet how serious my relationship was. And so I responded with, "Of course not." For some backstory, my boyfriend got cheated on a lot in the past, so he has very bad trust issues and gets really insecure that I'm going to be talking to other guys and all this other stuff. After my mom made this comment, I immediately knew he was gonna be mad. He went on pause on the class and literally refused to talk to me. For 20 minutes, I was begging him to say something, but he simply wouldn't. He finally said something when I was trying to get him to explain what he was feeling, and he thinks that since my mom made this comment, then I must have been talking to her about the topic before, which I definitely had not. I love my boyfriend, and with knowing how much he has a hard time trusting, I never want to make any comments to make him think that I want anyone else because I only want him. Well, he literally wouldn't talk to me and ended up going to sleep angry, and now I'm so overly stressed out and I can't sleep. I understand where he's coming from, but I also think that I don't deserve to be treated with disrespect over a comment that I didn't even make. Literally, the last thing he said to me before he fell asleep was him saying, "We're done." He is also bipolar, and so sometimes in arguments, he says things like this that he doesn't mean. Usually, once he's good again, he tells me that he doesn't actually want to break up with me and that he just gets in his head. But this time it's just different, because usually I force him to talk about his feelings and resolve them immediately, but this time with him just going to bed without talking about it, I'm stressing out a lot and scared that he's actually going to want to be done. Fast forward and it's the next day, and he still has not barely talked to me, and now he's at work, so I don't have any updates so far. So right now I'm honestly very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I think your boyfriend is being super immature. He is literally breaking up with you over a comment that your mom made, which you obviously don't reciprocate, and instead of talking to you about it, he's deciding to take the immature route and give you the cold shoulder, which by the way is incredibly toxic. There's never a good reason to do that, and that only makes things worse. And in my opinion, it kind of seems like he's wanting you to beg for forgiveness, as if you're the one that did anything wrong when in reality no one did anything. Like, does this guy even want to be in a relationship? It doesn't sound like he should be in one in the first place, especially if this is how he handles conflict, which by the way is not normal. That is like super toxic behavior and you don't deserve that. So I can only speak for myself, but I know if I was in your shoes, I would take him seriously when he says that we're done. I would pack it up and say, okay, I guess we're over, and I would force him to come to the table and figure this out. Because anybody who uses that as some kind of excuse just to punish their partner, in my opinion, does not deserve to have a partner, because that is absolutely unfair. My husband keeps interrupting me and answering questions for me in front of our friends, and it's now gotten to a point where I am seriously so frustrated because I really don't think there's any solution to this problem. Here's what happened. Okay, when I have a gathering with common friends that are married, my husband usually interrupts me when my friends are asking about my adventure or my life in general. My husband doesn't really do any sports, and he does not have many activities or interests other than watching cooking shows and a couple of other shows on YouTube. He does not have a lot of common interests with men. He likes to mingle with women because he likes to cook. The problem is when my girlfriends or friends are asking me about my adventures or even just my regular life, my husband will interrupt me answering and talks about my adventure, which he did not participate in, and about my life in front of me. For example, I love climbing, and I finally completed some big goal climbs. I was mingling in a party, and a friend asked me how my climb was. My husband, who does not climb or exercise, answers for me and said that the climb is easy. My friend even said to him in surprise that he thought my husband does not climb, and my husband just confidently says yes, and then continues talking without even realizing that it might be a hint. I then just leave the conversation. I mean, not only did he interrupt, but he also undermined my big goal and training for the past 2 to 3 years. This also extends about my regular daily life, stuff like kids' activities, restaurants that I tried, etc. For instance, my girlfriend will visit me and ask me about what I do for cooking, and my husband interrupts me and says that I don't go to the kitchen. I cook breakfast for my kids every day. I just don't cook for him because no matter what, he only eats what he cooks. I mean, he is very picky after all. I told my husband about this multiple times, and he says sorry, but he keeps repeating this. From my experience, my husband will never change, and instead, it's me who always needs to change. Also, he's not very self-aware at all. I told him to find more hobbies so he can relate and talk with more people, but according to him, he has a lot of hobbies. I don't tell him that it is related to this issue because then he will get defensive. If I gave him like an eye or hand signal, he literally just won't notice or understand. I mean, there are other things when I literally told him on the moment, please do not do this, and then he will still do it. And then later on, he will say that he misheard or misunderstood. I cannot come up with any solution other than I should just avoid going to parties with common friends with him. But what is the point of going to a party if I'm going to be hurt or pissed off afterwards? I am thinking I can try to tell him that we rotate if there is a friend gathering, but I'm just not sure what to tell my friends in the meantime. What should I do? Wow, your husband sounds incredibly annoying. The fact that he's interrupting you and like always talking over you and never letting you talk, like that would be super frustrating for me. I despise when people do this, especially about subjects they know nothing about. Like that's the part that would drive me up a wall. So hopefully Hopefully some kind of solution can come about because of this, because this is really unfair for you, as your husband, in my opinion, is incredibly annoying. My idiotic job demands that I wear my work uniform at all times, causing me to literally pass out from heat stroke, resulting in me going to the hospital for 2 days. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a few years ago, and I no longer work with this company because this story isn't even the first time where I thought my personal health and safety was taking the backseat to the requirements of this company. I work for a security company, and my assignment was the vehicle depot lot for the gas company. My duties were to sit in this aluminum trailer shack in the corner of the lot and monitor for suspicious activity. In Philadelphia, many of these areas were targeted by catalytic converter thieves. I was also supposed to make a patrol every hour to ensure the security of the site. Now, other than my patrols and to use the bathroom, I was not permitted to leave the box for any reason. My uniform was my usual long-sleeve button-up shirt and long pants, but also I was required to wear a boiler suit and hard hat for safety from things I might encounter on my patrols. Originally, I only wore my boiler suit and hard hat to do my patrols because it was July and the air conditioner in the box didn't work. However, my site supervisor came for inspection and threatened to fire me if I wouldn't wear the boiler suit and hard hat while sitting in the box as well. So I did just that. The end of July and beginning of August in 2022 was one of the worst heat waves in Philadelphia's history. On a good day, it was 140 degrees Fahrenheit plus inside the box itself, as it was made of aluminum and sitting in direct sunlight for the duration of my shift. Well, 3 days in, and I passed out standing in the men's restroom from advanced heat stroke. The gas company staff called an ambulance for me, and I was airlifted to the hospital. I mean, traffic in this part of the city, by the way, was notoriously terrible, especially late in the afternoon and early evening, and in this instance, every second counted. At the hospital, my body temperature was 105 degrees, and my pulse was a blistering 147. It took the doctors 2 days to get my temperature back to normal, as well as address all the damages the excess heat had done to my body. While I was getting life-saving care at the hospital, my abandoned post was infiltrated by 3 men who stole the catalytic converters from 18 vehicles. The parent company was livid, and when I was inquired as to why I wasn't at my post when the theft occurred, my doctor at the hospital took the phone and informed them of my condition upon arrival at the hospital. In the aftermath, I was reassigned. The broken air conditioner in the box was replaced with a 40,000 BTU unit that required a separate generator to power. And a few weeks later, my security company lost its contract with the gas company after my replacement fell asleep in the box, while the thieves returned to steal another 20 catalytic converters. But honestly, I'm glad I got away from those people because they literally put my life in danger. Wow, this company did not care about you at all. They literally made you sit in a box that's made of metal in the middle of a heat wave and try to be like, man, you need to stay there no matter what. And even after the theft occurred when you weren't there, they try to make it seem like you abandoned your post and were actively trying to find some reason to pin this on you. And that is crazy in my opinion. Like, this is why people hate their jobs nowadays. They work for people that literally just don't care about them. They only care about their stupid converters instead of the person sitting in the box baking to death. So yes, I'm glad you don't work there either because these people seriously suck, as they did not care about your safety in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not following my husband's family tradition by naming our future son in the way that they demand it? Because right now I feel like we've upset the entire extended family, and at this point we don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my husband comes from a very traditional family. While we disagree with his family on many things, it has never really been an issue until now. I'm currently 8 months pregnant, and my husband and I couldn't be happier, as we've been trying at this for a while. Since I first found out I was pregnant, we've been discussing names for our child. In my husband's family, the tradition wants the child to be named after his grandfather. And basically, firstborn men in his family only have one of 2 names, James or Henry. My husband's grandfather was James, so his name is James too. My husband's father is called Henry, so our child should be as well, and so on and so forth. But my husband and I didn't really feel like calling our child Henry, and although it's a beautiful way to honor family members, we really wanted our child to have a name that would be personal, that would truly be his. So we chose another name, and decided to wait until after the birth to reveal it to everybody. Well, this week, my mother-in-law came to visit us and help us set up for the baby. She brought us some presents, amongst which was a bunch of clothing on which she hand-embroidered the name Henry. I said that it was nice and I thanked her for it, but told her that we wouldn't be naming our child Henry, which is something that we had already told her in the past. She then started insisting and saying that it was a tradition, so it had to be that way. But I explained to her that we would rather give our child a name that we chose, and that Henry could be his middle name. Well, she immediately went to my husband and started saying things like, "You're not going to let her do that to our family," and making it very dramatic, saying that I was breaking a tradition that went back like hundreds of years, and honestly, I'm not even sure about that. My husband tried to explain that we both agreed on the name and all the reasons why we made the choice, but she simply wouldn't listen. She suggested that we name him Henry on paper as his legal name and then called him something else, but I thought that would be confusing for him and told her that he would be named what we chose. Well, she kept begging my husband and saying that I was ruining the family tradition, and at one point I lost it, which is partially to blame on my hormones, I think. And I told her straight up that it was our child, so we did what we wanted, and we didn't have to follow a stupid tradition. After that, she stormed out, and my husband has since received text messages from his father and sister accusing me of making his mother feel really bad and some other stuff that I don't really remember. I get the importance of tradition, and it can be really beautiful, but also I feel like that shouldn't be an obligation, and it's okay to change things. We won't change our baby's name because we're really set on that, but maybe we were wrong for not following the tradition. I'm not entirely sure, and I'm mentally exhausted by this drama, because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, I cannot fully describe how much I hate traditions like this, where the family locks you into doing a certain thing a certain way simply because the family's been doing this for generations. I find that crap so annoying, and I don't blame you for breaking free of that, because you know what? You have it 100% right. This is your kid. You can name your kid whatever you want. And guess what? If you don't want to name it Henry, then you don't have to. These people cannot force you to name it something that absolutely is outside of what you guys want to name this kid, and that's final. Like literally, no one has any other say in this. Like, why should you be locked into some stupid name all because some very deceased relative decided to do this and it somehow caught on? So no, you're not in the wrong, and you're definitely not the jerk here, because the extended family you're dealing with are obnoxious. I mean, seriously, just look at what they're getting upset about. They're actually getting pissed off that you're not following along and naming this kid what they want it to be named. And that, in my opinion, is incredibly manipulative and a giant red flag. And that is not something that I think you ever should have to deal with. My friend's entitled mother claims that her daughter's behavior is all because of me, stating that I'm a bad influence and that I'm the reason she's making all the wrong choices. But now, after all these years, she's now coming to me asking me to be a good influence in her daughter's life. And I'm honestly so blown away that things changed so quickly, because the way she treated me in the past was absolutely ridiculous. Here's what happened. When I was growing up, I had two friends that were the same age. We were literally babies together and continued to hang out as young girls. One of my friends moved to another state, so I visited with her less often and became closer to the other friend, who I will call Nina for the sake of the story. Nina was the oldest child and only girl and was extremely spoiled. Her parents, especially her mother, regarded her as the most beautiful and special child in the world. Her mom and my mom were friends, and her mom had hurt my mom's feelings by indicating that I looked weird as a child because I favored my dad. My mom was offended and didn't think Nina was all that cute either, but kept it all to herself. And by the way, she told me this later and didn't escalate it at the time. I was raised in a highly structured and disciplined home, so besides the occasional bad attitude, I wasn't much of a problem. I am an only child, but we struggled a lot. I dealt with homelessness multiple times growing up, as well as helping with caregiving for multiple ill relatives. I'm grateful to these experiences as they made me mature and grounded quite early. Nina, however, continued to be pampered and given whatever she wanted. The word no was foreign to her. But you know what? I didn't care, as it was none of my business. As we became teens, Nina started sneaking out of her house and messing around with boys. Her family is religious, so this was completely prohibited. Nina had told me that she had a boyfriend but nothing else. And at the time, I wasn't interested in boys, especially not the oily, irritating ones that were around me. One day, Nina's mom called my mom very upset. She then informed my mom that I was no longer allowed around Nina or even welcome to their home. My mom asked why, of course, and that's when Nina's mom accused me of being a bad influence on her daughter. She said that Nina had been caught sneaking out of the house and that she had obviously learned that behavior from me. Well, my mom was infuriated and told her that I did not act in such ways. Her daughter's misbehavior was not my fault, but a result of years of spoiling and lackadaisical discipline. This argument went nowhere, and ultimately Nina and I weren't allowed to be friends anymore. I was devastated and angry. I never snuck out or acted out in such ways, and yet somehow I was the one being blamed, because to Nina's parents, she was perfect and couldn't possibly be at fault. It just had to be the ugly poor kid that taught the perfect and beautiful Nina this behavior. A couple of years go by and Nina becomes a teenage mom. Apparently, she admits to her mom that her behavior is her own doing, but of course, we never receive an apology or a phone call and only find this out later. Well, in present day, I'm around 19 years old and Nina has a toddler. And when my parents and I go to get our taxes done, we run into Nina's parents. They were happy to see us and very polite and friendly, and it was then that Nina's mom looks surprised when she sees me. She then says, "Oh my god, you actually grew up to be so pretty." And I think to myself, okay, thank you, I guess. Like, I was never ugly, lady, but but I digress. My mom is visibly annoyed at the comment, but she still remains polite. She asked about my life and finds out I'm doing well, and I will be starting college soon. She asked for our contact information and we exchange numbers. Later, she calls and opens up about Nina being a bit out of control, and she sees that I have it together and wonders if I can be a positive person in Nina's life now. And when we heard this, my mom and I were dumbfounded. She can't be serious, right? She still had not apologized, but hinted that Nina had admitted to being sneaky for some years. My mom said it was up to me if I wanted to reconnect, but I owed them nothing. Now, I attempted to speak with Nina, but on our first conversation, she complained that her parents had purchased her a new car, but she wanted a truck. They didn't listen to her once, and she was enraged. She also said her grandma had purchased her daughter unattractive toddler clothes and not the luxury brand ones that she was accustomed to. Unfortunately, it was then that I realized we had nothing in common, and we never spoke to each other ever again after that day. Wow, what a spoiled brat, but also what an awful mother. Nina's mom is a piece of garbage for blaming that crappy behavior on you. I can't stand people who do that, who literally are ignoring the way their kids are acting, but still find some way to look around and be like, it's not my fault, it's that person's fault. Meanwhile, you're sitting there like, wait a second, I didn't do anything. Just because you're friends with her and associated her loosely in some kind of way, doesn't mean that you are solely responsible for her behavior. That literally falls on Nina's shoulders and nobody else. So seriously, I don't blame you for kicking Nina to the curb. She clearly does not have her life together, and I don't think your involvement in her life is going to fix that in the slightest. An entitled delivery driver refuses to give me my groceries that I ordered, stating that they won't give me my groceries unless I give them a good tip. But when I tell them no, they freak out, run back to their car, and drive off with my groceries. And I'm simply fed up. I'm so angry over the circumstance, and I seriously don't know what to do. So to start things out, I use a delivery service that brings my groceries directly to my door. It has been a great help and saves a ton of time. It is a dice roll though whenever you order. There are, after all, some very questionable people who do deliveries. I've had a couple of bad experiences, so for that reason, I choose not to tip until after the service is complete. I tip anywhere from 10 to 15%, and I think that's reasonable and very fair. I usually tip more if I order heavy items like soda or bottled water. Now, really, in my opinion, I don't think tipping should exist at all. I can't tell you how annoyed I get when I have an iPad shoved in my face by cashiers, or people handing you your to-go order, and even the guy that might be fixing your air conditioning. It's presumptuous and rude. You're getting put in this awkward position where you're expected to subsidize the wages of people who've done the bare minimum in order to fulfill the services I've already paid for. Tips used to be reserved for people that went out of their way to do a great job. Anyways, I opened the door today to a lady with no groceries in hand, and instead of greeting me, abruptly asked if I'm planning on leaving a tip. I told her that I tip based on the service that I receive, which means I have to tip after she finishes the delivery. The woman loudly sucks her teeth and tells me I'm not getting my order until I give her a tip. She's very adamant that I tip her in cash as well. I asked her to deliver my groceries first, and she flat out refuses, and I just stared at her in shock. We stand in silence awkwardly until I told her that I've already paid for my order and that it's her job to make sure I get it regardless of what I tip. And before I can even finish my sentence, this lady walks away, shuts her trunk, and starts to drive off. And when she did this, I was honestly blown away. I spent the next half an hour being bounced around from person to person on customer service, only to be told that I had to call in to resolve the problem. One very disgruntled phone call later, and I finally got my refund and my driver reported. And after this experience, I am seriously done with tipping. I'm so tired of being guilted into paying on top of an already expensive bill just because the owners don't want to pay their workers a decent living. You can call me selfish or rude, but I'm past the point of being moved by social pressure to tip. From now on, I will be discontinuing all tips. It's not fair to the customer or the employee. It relies on guilt and preys on people's fears of social awkwardness in order to fleece us. We should not be worrying that an employer won't deliver our order or sabotage our food if we dare not tip them. And you know what? If prices go up, well then fine. I want to know exactly what I'm paying for. No more mandatory but not actually mandatory gratuity. If enough of us do it, tipped employees will be motivated to demand compensation from the people who should actually be paying for it. And I honestly believe that it's not the customer's responsibility to pay for your staff. First and foremost, the fact that the driver drove off when the original poster didn't tip them right away is honestly crazy to me. I've never heard of that happening. Like seriously, what is wrong with people? Like I totally understand feeling jaded or somehow feeling hurt by other people's decisions in the past, but But this goes to a whole different level. Like, this person literally said, hey, once you give me my groceries, I'm going to tip. They didn't say to this delivery driver, I'm not going to tip you, so just give me my food. Like, no, that's not what happened. There's no justification for taking their groceries and running off. Talk about losing your job faster than you got it. All they had to do was give them their groceries, and then this person would have tipped them. And I completely agree, 10 to 15% is totally reasonable. So this delivery driver was just way out of line. There's no reason to act that way. And also, on some of the points that they made, I completely agree as well. If I'm going into a restaurant and I'm picking up food that I ordered that I'm gonna pick up, I'm absolutely not gonna tip you. That's just my own personal standard. Like, I'm doing the legwork of picking up my food. You, on the other hand, are just taking my payment, and there's no way I'm gonna tip you for doing that service. Now, on the other hand, in my personal opinion, if someone is waiting on me at a restaurant, or if they're delivering food to my door with like an online order app or something like that, then yes, I will tip them, and I won't go above 10% personally, because I completely agree with the original poster here. Tipping is honestly used, especially in America, as this guilt-tripping tactic just to try and get more money out of the consumer. And that's not fair for me, the customer. Like, for example, in Japan, you don't tip at all. People do not tip their waiters or service workers, and the store and the business still functions just fine. And it's hopefully some kind of livable wage where they don't have to expect something extra on top of the already expensive bill. So I am personally all on board with what the original poster is saying, and I think in some specific circumstances, you really just should not tip the worker in the slightest. But what would you do in this situation? What would you do if some condescending worker ran off with your groceries if you didn't tip them right away? Leave a comment down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius? Check it out, link down below in the description. My coworker's entitled father goes off on an angry rampage, forcing our office to go into lockdown, with my coworker's dad eventually getting arrested and thrown in jail. Here's what happened. So we have a person who works at our office. We'll call her Catherine. That's not her real name. And Catherine started working with us about a year ago. They're very relaxed and very easygoing to get along with. She's a very good worker, excellent attention to detail, but didn't really talk much about her personal life. Some days she can go by without saying a word to anybody. I always assumed it was because in our office, we are mostly all on the autistic spectrum, and she always talks without looking at the person she was speaking with, speaking mostly down to the ground. One day, around 7 to 8 months ago, her parents randomly showed up in our lobby and were screaming and demanding to speak to her. They appeared absolutely drunk and they were trespassed. She went home for the rest of the day, as it clearly must have taken some time for her parents to track her down to actually find out where she worked. She was really paranoid about social media or any pictures of her being taken. We didn't fully comprehend it until one particular incident. What I previously couldn't wrap my head around is why these parents would go out of their way to get their own daughter in problems at work and then show up and demand that they talk to her. Our team didn't want to pry, but she told us that when she grew up, her parents were really bad alcoholics and she was mostly left at home to fend for herself. We knew that the dad was a bit of a hothead, so our team collectively agreed that if they showed up, we would call the security. The company was very much on her side, but we could tell that there was a lot more to it than we realized. Effectively, they were banned from the building, and she already has enough to get them trespassed and asked to leave. This went into effect about 3 months ago, and no one was any wiser. That is, until the fateful day of the incident. We were all working in one of the main wings of our building when a general security alert is raised that someone is on the premises that shouldn't be there. This is normally fine, as we work very close to a public park with a footpath, and there's no fence. So 9 out of 10 times, they don't know that they've entered a private property, or that they generally just can't be there. Now, we are not a government facility, but we do deal with government systems when they apply to large-scale, high-end systems that require support. I don't work on those teams, but they do exist within our building, so our security is geared for that level of response should we ever need it in some kind of way. In general, we just pay security to go to the gym and look mean for the most part. Now, to explain, there is 2 sets of doors and a badge turnstile to get to our part of the building. It is basically a man trap. Not exactly the most secure, but you can get through it if your card is authorized. By policy, we can't swipe for another person, as they need to go to the security desk. Our security team 99% of the time looks bored and is a mixture of ex-military types, and mostly they're just down to earth and they will speak to anyone, or helpfully do their jobs in the office even if it's not security related. So they'll do stuff like picking up packages from the reception desk, deliver it to the person, chase the post office down, stuff like that. On one side of our office from our full glass windows, you can see the public footpath, and the other side overlooked our main car park, which was our main entrance and exit. Around that time, we notice the alert hasn't passed, and security is rushing to our doors from the inside. All we hear from our security team radio is the words breach, breach, and this is all with security rushing over to us, advising us to go down the fire exit. Basically, someone was there who definitely shouldn't be there, and they would not leave, and was now trying to get into our wing door. At this point, we are all huddled together towards the back and got ready to go to the fire exit. However, security closed the door from us and asked us to stay put. So we consider the facts and we think, okay, so there's a crazy person. Let's not panic about it. We just gotta stay up here and then we should be good until the police arrive. Well, the first person we see is a civil protection car, and it shows up in our car park. Okay, generally these are called if the situation is minor and there is no need for any kind of intervention. My thought at this moment is that someone was just lost and probably doesn't speak the language downstairs. These guys can basically double as tourist police. At this point, we don't know where this person is, as they seem to be moving around following the radio chatter, with a simple request of asking if they can drop this idiot. Now, the person at the reception desk is a former soldier who didn't always get along with anybody, but is not the type of person you want to be upset. A few minutes later, we hear on the security radios the phrase blue one, red one, black, which didn't make sense to us, but it did seem to cause security on our floor to flip the nearest tables to the doors. And they did this toward the main door to block the entrance to our wing. At this point, the rest of us were very concerned. They had a makeshift barricade. This is clearly not an overreaction. So we're thinking, what in the world is going on? We then hear over the radio, secure 1, secure 2, secure 3, followed by lock down the wing west, which apparently meant that we could not use the fire exits. Eventually, we watch as local police and then national police race through our car park with blue lights flashing to our building. Okay, now this is getting a bit concerning. They rush into our building, but we can't see what is happening downstairs due to the angle from our windows not matching up to the main entrance. We see what looks like all of the site security downstairs running to the outside of our entrance. We wait another few minutes until the phrase black was being declared and that we should let the police into all the wings effectively immediately. Now, mind you, all of this was happening in Spanish, and my understanding of Spanish isn't the best at times, but our security team immediately goes to Catherine. I think at that moment, we know who has to be downstairs. It has to be her dad. I mean, he couldn't have caused that much trouble, right? Most of our security team knows how to handle themselves. Maybe he's just trying to speak to Catherine again. But no, I was completely wrong. In the meantime, we see Catherine start to cry, and in our car park, we see the civil guard, and this is a very bad sign. There are blue lights flashing and what looks like to be a massive truck. We didn't know it at the time, but it's a very specialized fire truck. Catherine, upon seeing this, is an emotional wreck to the point that I've never seen anything like this ever. All we hear her say is that he's doing it again. We try to console her, but we've clearly lost the capability. Security manages to get her moving to the toilets on our floor to clean herself up. We hear screaming and shouting outside our main door to our wing, shouting out Catherine's name. There was screaming back from Catherine, and let me tell you, none of the conversation was pleasant. Now, the passage of time at this point was very confusing. I couldn't tell if it had been 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 3 hours. All I know by the time things had calmed down was that it was dark outside. We finally get out of the wing and we're told to avoid the main area. Catherine gets escorted out of the fire exit and the security and the police decide to go with her. Now, here's the aftermath of what happened. Her drunken dad, after getting a criminal trespass and also a restraining order and a foreign protection order for good measure, decided it was now a very good idea to drive to our office to speak to her about breaking up the family and tell everyone on our main desk that it was her fault. Everything apparently was her fault. Him being drunk, his wife being drunk, her mother's family wanting nothing to do with him, the JFK situation, the fake moon landing, you name it, this guy was saying it. Now, security had asked him to leave, but this guy escalated this in a serious way, and he got incredibly hostile as a result. He basically gave security the idea that he had some kind of trap for her, and in that situation, they asked him what he was planning to do, and he just said that it's gonna be really big. So security by design locked down the building and had to clear every entrance and exit of any potential problems. This turned into a nothing burger because there literally was no problem in the first place. It's just him being drunk, thinking that it would be a brilliant idea to try and say something like this. Naturally, after that exchange, they called the police. He then tried to actually attack the police officers. Acting on the information they had, they knew that he had an exceptionally long history of violence, as well as a history of being arrested, and the police were looking for evidence to put put him down for a long time, and frankly, even the police hated dealing with him. Generally speaking, when the office responding to you knows your name upon seeing you, you're doing something incredibly wrong. Most, if not all of us in the office, tried to start talking to Catherine more. We didn't completely know how to deal with this, but she did eventually open up to us more. And when she told us her childhood, it reduced me to tears. There was no food in the house, and she had to ensure that her siblings were fed, all the way up to the point of stealing, until she was old enough to work as a child. The reason why she was so good at her job was because she had about 10 years of experience ahead of all of us, and that was what made her money to feed her younger sisters. She dropped out of school and was looking after them, making sure that they were fed well before her. I struggled with this because I couldn't imagine living through that. To put a child through that and expect them to be cordial, I just will never understand that. And as for the parents, well, he's in prison, and her supposed mother blames her for him being arrested. Apparently, they were just wanting to speak to her about money, and this entire incident was done by the request of her mother. Now, we look after our coworker a lot more, and we try to invite her out. She has opened up with us a lot and talks to us a lot more. One thing is that she does have a fear of abandonment that we work through, even if a few minutes late. We totally understand her. We try to make sure she's included in everything that we do. And despite her awful parents, she is a good person, and she deserves so much more in this world than they have ever tried to give her. The original poster's coworker has awful parents. What on earth are they thinking? They seriously only came to her to try and get money. They also neglected her when she was younger and did not give her the upbringing that she absolutely deserved. I mean, this is a crazy circumstance. I can't imagine having a job and worrying all the time that my parents are going to show up and try and ruin it for me. But hopefully with her dad in jail, as well as her mom basically being estranged, she can find some kind of peace as well as some kind of friendship with her coworkers. Because with all things considered, she honestly deserves the absolute best. An entitled old man claims that he did not rear-end another woman in a car wash. But after I reviewed the security footage, I put this guy in his place, and I exposed him for the liar that he is. Here's what happened. Several years ago, I worked at a gas station with a car wash. This car wash uses a chain that pulls every vehicle through at the same speed, leaving about 25 feet apart. The car wash was the cause of like 80% of all customer grievances, and this one is a bit different. One weekday afternoon, I was stocking shelves when a young woman and an older man came in together. They spot me and say we need to have a conversation, so I move back behind the counter. I look at him and I say, "Okay, so what can I do for you?" The woman is about to speak when the old man cuts her off. "Your car wash damaged my car, both of ours." This is unfortunately not the first time I've heard this, so I asked them how this happened. The woman chimes in and says that both of their cars were in the car wash and that she was ahead of this guy, and the car wash pulled his car into the back of hers really hard. Now this raised some immediate red flags. That is literally impossible. The chain can't pull one vehicle faster or slower than another, so I tell them exactly that. The woman says, "Is it possible?" And at this point, the old man starts to scream, "Are you calling me a liar?" interrupting the woman and all of us completely. The woman is visibly annoyed at this point. I say to them, "What I'm saying is that the car wash couldn't have done that. Either you hit the brakes, ma'am, or you hit the gas, sir." The woman then said, "Well, I didn't hit the brakes," sounding as though she started second guessing herself. The old man then started screaming back that he's not stupid and he never touched the gas pedal. Now, not to be that guy, but old people are usually the ones who have issues with the car wash, so he was honestly my prime suspect. I said to him, "Well, thankfully the car wash is lined with cameras, so I'll just go rewind the footage and see what happened exactly." And I say this as easily as possible. At this point, the old man started to cave. He said, "Oh, that's not necessary. We'll just have my company pay for the damages." So I say to him, "Well, your company is gonna want to review the footage anyways, so I might as well do that now." At this point, the man looked incredibly nervous. He said, No, let's not waste any more of our time." I exaggeratedly raise an eyebrow at him, and then I glance over to her. She clues in that I'm laying on the pressure to him, and also looks at him suspiciously. Now it's time to twist the knife. So I look at him and I say, "Oh, but sir, surely the camera footage will prove your innocence, right?" And that's when everything went silent. Yep, it was him. He was the problem. So I review the footage, and sure enough, while he was pulled up by the chain at first, he hit the gas and rear-ended her. I came back behind the counter and I look at the woman. Well, it turns out he hit the gas and rear-ended you. Now, even though it happened in the car wash, it wasn't caused by the car wash. So this matter will have to be resolved between the two of you. If you would like the camera footage to provide to insurance, I would be happy to give it to you. I look over at the old man with a smile, and he was clearly clearly not happy with this result. He knew he was in trouble and he knew that he was at fault. She thanked me, looks over to him and says, "It's time for you to pay up." And it was honestly all incredibly satisfying to watch it go down. Honestly, the one thing I've learned from corporate America, or even just working in customer service, it's that when someone is angry or someone is overly frustrated or freaking out in some kind of way, that means they're clearly trying to play an angle and they're trying to play you. And the old man in this story is absolutely fitting the bill. I mean, he is clearly guilty. He rear-ended this lady's car. He hit her when he hit the gas. This lady clearly didn't do anything wrong. And now that there was video evidence, suddenly he's going to start backpedaling. Because it's funny, at first he was screaming, "Oh, are you calling me a liar? I didn't do anything wrong." But the second the original poster mentioned any kind of footage that could be reviewed, he suddenly turns into the agreeable, sweet old man, unsure of what's going on. Like, give me a break, buddy. You're caught red-handed and you know what happened. And his reaction to the whole scenario, as well as how he was treating everybody involved, was just so out of line. So hopefully this teaches him a valuable lesson about being honest and nice to those around you. He was very clearly in the wrong, and if he was just a little bit nicer, as well as just a little bit more honest, he could have avoided all this embarrassment, as well as this lady getting this footage that she's definitely going to send to her insurance. An entitled customer claims he's going to sue me, as well as everybody in the store, claiming that he slipped and fell. But my manager put him in their place, as she systematically destroyed this entitled customer one step at a time. And it was honestly awesome to see. Here's what happened. So I work at this awful store making $10 an hour and deal with jerks all day. It's located in a trashy part of town with a lot of homeless people and a lot of entitled people. Honestly, if not for the customers, it wouldn't be that bad of a place to work at. So I just got on a shift with one of my supervisors and manager when this one guy walks in and immediately has an attitude. He is short, he's fat, and he's missing his front teeth. It was just me at the front, and the first words out of his mouth were the following:
"Is your manager here? Go get them."
Now, I didn't know which one he was referring to, as a lot of times customers would refer to my supervisors as my managers, and I explained just that to him, hoping he would clarify who he was looking for. I also didn't want to get my manager, as you know, this is an awful part of town, and some of the customers are creeps, like 50-year-old men who hit on 20-something-year-old coworkers. So I asked him if he needed help with anything to figure out why he was looking for my manager, but he doesn't say, and he just snaps at me and says,
"Go get your manager right now."
So I just shrug, and I grab the both of them to deal with him, and this is where I learned why he was here. The guy claimed he was here the night before and had slipped on the wet floor, which I believed at first because I was working the night before and I do remember checking him out, and the floor was wet as I mop almost every single night. I normally wait an hour before closing to mop, hitting areas that I know don't get much foot traffic first, and then finishing the more busier areas after closing, such as the main entrance and stuff like that. But this one night was super busy, and after mopping just one aisle, a line of customers waltz up to the counter and I got busy dealing with them. So I did forget to put up the wet floor signs, and I know this is my bad, and because I forgot, I did get written up. So it was completely possible that he did slip and fall. However, as he talked more and the interaction drew on, it slowly got more and more apparent that he was, to put it frankly, talking out of his rear end. For starters, he said he slipped and fell in a very specific aisle and knocked over an entire shelf full of products. But this aisle he was speaking about happened to be right next to the counter where I was. It also happened to be the aisle for car parts, as well as sprays, flashlights, and stuff like that. So all the stuff he could have knocked over were very heavy, and they were very loud objects that would have gotten everybody's attention. Yet me and my supervisor, the same guy who was working right now, didn't hear anything, let alone see him slip and fall. He also claimed that he told the cashier at the time, who was me, exactly what happened. But guess what? Spoiler alert, he didn't say anything. All he did was buy his stupid Dr. Pepper and then leave the store. He also then claimed he had a recording of him falling, as well as a recording of my supervisor, the one that was working that night, admitting to seeing him fall. Now this really upset my supervisor, as now the guy was straight up lying about him and didn't miss a beat in calling him out. The guy ended up getting louder, now almost shouting that he knew who our direct manager was and that his uncle was a lawyer and that he had a solid case. The two of them traded words, my supervisor keeping his cool and just repeating that he never saw anything and that he didn't see it happen, while the guy repeated he was going to get him fired and also saying,
"I was going to file a complaint, but now I'm just gonna sue you."
He made it clear he was going to sue both the company and my supervisor for his attitude. It was clear that the guy was trying to goat my my supervisor into a fight so he could claim we were being hostile. Luckily, my manager got my supervisor to leave and pretty much separated the two. I stuck around though because he wasn't calming down and I wasn't going to leave him alone with my manager. Eventually, my manager gets on the phone to file a complaint on this guy's behalf since he was refusing to do so himself. And when she asked for his name, which was required for filing a complaint, and also because he just threatened legal action against us. And guess what? He refused to give her his name. She even asked for his phone number so they can call him regarding questions, and he refused to tell her that as well. She even asked for a detailed account either by email or letter so HR can know what happened, and he refused to do that as well. He pretty much just refused to give us anything that could be tied to him. My manager then just hands him a list of corporate contacts, and he leaves after once again shouting that he was going to sue and get all three of us fired. I get fairly written up, and now we're having a store meeting, even though I'm not sure if it's tied to this incident or not. My manager did later admit there was nothing on the camera. My supervisor and I chatted about it, and I made it very clear that he came in looking for a fight, and a lot of his story didn't make a whole lot of sense. He marched in, cussed at me, and ended up shouting so loud that he actually scared off a customer. Either way, I'm glad my manager handled it in the way that they did, and they perfectly shut down this jerk completely. That guy was being super obnoxious. Let's think about some of the facts here. He tried to claim that he fell down in the store, but also refused to have any kind of complaint attaching him to this claim. And he also said he had a convenient recording of the supervisor, claiming that they had seen the whole thing and that they verified everything. But I find it comical that once this guy is presented with the option of proving anything right, he basically was just like, no, I'm not going to tell you. Like, what are you talking about? If you have a case and you have something that you can file a complaint about, why would you not go ahead and just do it unless you're just lying through your teeth? Which is probably a struggle since this guy is missing his front teeth. I mean, what a clown. And I just love how this guy basically lied and said, ooh, my uncle's a lawyer. He's gonna get you. I'm gonna get all you guys fired. This guy is literally just making himself look like a fool, and he seriously deserves to be embarrassed. So I totally agree with the original poster here. The manager handled it perfectly. They got this jerk out of their store, and hopefully they never come back and have this kind of attitude ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius? Check it out, link down below in the description. My friend basically invited himself to the concert I was planning on going to privately with a small group, and I really don't want him to tag along with my group, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So me and my best friend are planning to go to a concert this summer with my mom. The three of us planned it together, and we are all excited to go together. It got mentioned in passing around another one of my friends who likes the band that we're going to be seeing, and he asked if tickets were still available. I told him yes there were, as it's a lawn concert and those don't sell out fast. He then immediately called off of work to go, and me and my best friend just kind of looked at each other and we were like, what's going on? Now, we didn't invite him to come along with us because we wanted it to just be the three of us. He is a bit older than us and is my brother's best friend first, so he's kind of only a friend by default. We're all close as a group, but to me at least, there's a disconnect there between me and this guy. He's the kind of person that you can only handle in certain amounts. I'm going through an internal struggle and some self-reflection about this because maybe I just don't like him. Or is it normal to not always want certain friends around at every single outing? We get along fine, and we all play board games and video games together. We go on shopping trips on our off days, and we go to the movies and we go to the zoo. Our group is even going to a concert together later this summer, so I don't know why this is so different. Maybe it's because my brother won't be there. I don't know. At the end of the day, he's not the kind of friend I want to hang out with one-on-one very often, if at all. He also had a crush on me in the past, so I don't like being in a one-on-one situation with him. He doesn't do anything or anything like that, but it just makes me uncomfortable the way he looks at me and the way he acts sometimes. He mentioned recently that work gave him the day off so he can go to the concert, and I'm not sure how to bring it up to him that we don't want to go with him. How do I approach this without hurting his feelings? And also, how do I place any kind of boundaries with him? Side note, morally, I feel pretty awful about this. I feel like friends don't treat other friends like this, and normally we would be very happy for a friend to tag along to a concert. What should I do? It sounds like this is one of those friends that is like a friend of your brother's that you've only been friends with because it's been a friend of your brother. So it doesn't sound like you guys are actually friends. And if anything, you're just friends by association. And I totally get where you're coming from. Sometimes in a friend group, there are people that you just don't want to spend time with. Not on like a one-on-one situation, if you will. Sure, they're a part of the general friend group, but when it comes to your personal preferences, there's a reason you didn't invite him to come along with you. He makes you uncomfortable, you don't like the way he acts around you, and overall, it just doesn't make you feel good. And that's your right. You're more than welcome to feel that way. But in my opinion, the way you told him that, yeah, they still have tickets was completely wrong. You should have made it clear from the beginning, especially if you wanted this to be a girl's day out, that it's just that. It's just a girl's day out. You can say that we planned this ahead of time with a private group, and it's just me, my friend, and my mom going to see this concert. Something along those lines. Because the way you said it basically left an opening for this guy to be like, oh, I'm gonna tag along. And he probably thinks that this is fine. He probably just doesn't connect that you don't want him there, especially if you've never had a conversation with him, basically stating just that. So if he brings it up again, maybe ask him who he's going with to this concert, just to try and give him a subtle hint of, hey, you're not invited to my group, but who are you gonna go with? That might be your only out, to be completely honest. At the end of the day though, this is a public event. You can't tell him to just not go. And there is a chance that he might not even interact with you in the slightest. Maybe he has plans to go with other people and you just don't know about it. It doesn't sound like that's been completely spelled out, and it doesn't totally sound like he's gonna tag along with you and your friend. So maybe before you do anything, make sure you get all the information. It would be really awkward to preemptively say, hey, you can't go with us if you're going to this concert, if he had no intention of being around you and your friends in the slightest. But it would also be important to maybe make that boundary known that, hey, it's great that you're going to the concert, but I'm not going to be hanging out with you during it. That way expectations can be set and everyone can just kind of do their own thing. So hopefully whatever actually happens, it all just kind of goes well. Because in my opinion, this absolutely should have been handled a lot better. My girlfriend almost always never completes any task that she starts off, and it's really starting to bother me, and I seriously don't know what to do. So my girlfriend and I have been together for 3 years, living together for the last year. I'm starting to notice more and more things that she sets out to do and then drops midway. To better explain this, I'll summarize a couple of examples. For starters, we wanted to buy a different couch and decided on the type and color. I asked her to take a look at some options. I did some looking, I found some links, and several days later, I asked her for her shortlist, and I come to find out that she hasn't even started. After a month, she barely did any research. Eventually, I started asking her about it every day, and she finally finished her part. She also had the idea to custom paint one of the walls in her room. She made a sketch, I took out all of the pictures and furniture, and she outlined the wall with a pen. It has been 4 months since then, and our wall is still white with pen marks all over it. She also insisted that she took care of loading in the laundry. She forgets to do the laundry until the basket is full of dirty clothes, at which point there's like 5 to 6 runs needed to get everything washed. Whenever I take off a dirty shirt, it's usually 7 to 10 days until she loads it in. And because of this, I've started to have to buy more shirts. She will also forget chores or random tasks that I ask her to do. She'll forget to buy something from the grocery store. She'll forget to pick up the mail from the mailbox when she comes in. In fact, the other day, we were going on a trip and I was packing the car up. I called her and I asked her to pack a single pair of beach slippers. And guess what? She forgot that as well. This even happened when we sold our coffee table and we ended up without one for 2 weeks, all the way up until I got so upset for having to set my phone and drink on the floor just to enjoy them. And the latest one is incredibly annoying. She pushed me for weeks to sell our dining table and get a smaller one. It does make sense, we could use more space. So I asked if she has a replacement table in mind, and she said, yeah, I found a couple of stores with pretty good tables. She showed me links and all of that, but she hasn't actually found a replacement. So I sold our dining table 2 weeks ago per her instructions. We are eating on the couch in front of the TV for 2 weeks, even though I've asked her about 5 times if she found any kind of replacement. I'm 100% sure she's not even thinking about it. I don't know how to address this. I mean, am I supposed to take care of everything in our life? Should we do all these things together? Or am I doing something wrong? It's really upsetting me that I can't rely on her to get a single item of furniture that she had literally asked for. It's come to the point where I'm extremely petty about it, and I just want to see how long this will take. I understand this is not healthy, but I have no idea what to do. Honestly, I don't think I can live with someone who is this disorganized and unreliable, as well as someone who doesn't even care about what condition they live in. It might sound harsh, but I really think I am not being unreasonable here. Or maybe I am, and that's why I'm posting this in the first place. What should I do? Honestly, from the sounds of it, and I'm no doctor, but based on my own experience with this, it kind of sounds like she's got ADHD of some kind. Like she clearly has focus issues, she has trouble following through on things, and it doesn't sound like she has a good strategy of how to fix it. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, I don't know what I'm talking about, but maybe that's a possibility of some kind. Like it follows typical patterns that I've seen in my own life, life. And this is something that I deal with on a daily basis, so I can kind of relate to what's going on. But if talking to a doctor or going that route of like possible medication is not something you want to pursue, then maybe having a more strict schedule and helping her find some kind of accountability would really do some benefit. I always find it super helpful to set reminders on my phone to remind me that, hey, I need to do X, Y, or Z. That way I can move in and do it and just get it done. Post-it notes are also a fantastic tool to try and help me get things done. It reminds me of any task that I need to do, and once it's done, I can throw away the post-it note and I know I've done it. But there are a lot of strategies to help with this type of thing, and I think it really depends on you and your partner. Obviously, it might seem petty to not want to do anything and see how long it'll take, but honestly, I think there needs to be some kind of intervention. I think talking to her about this really could be beneficial for both of you. So hopefully there's some kind of solution here, because based on what you're describing, this honestly does sound really obnoxious. My boyfriend's mom has been giving me the silent treatment ever since we told her that we are moving out, and she has really started a lot of arguments, and I don't know how to deal with this situation. So for a bit of context, my boyfriend is 23 and I'm 26 years old, and his mother is 63. About a month ago, we told her that we are going to be moving in together, and she did not take it well. Technically, I already live on my own, but my boyfriend is the one that will be moving out of his mother's house, and then we will find a place where we will rent together. His mother has been giving me the silent treatment ever since. Even when I greet her, she will just walk right past me. Her goal was for her son to buy a house for the two of them so that she can retire. But now, because we are moving in together, I'm apparently taking him away from her and ruining their plans. So the other day, my boyfriend had a few friends over and we all had dinner together. We were having such a great time, so I said, "Oh, look at us, we're making memories." My boyfriend's mother then said, "These are our final memories." And she started yelling, saying that I was flaunting the fact that I'm apparently stealing her son away from everybody. I said to her, "Hold on, that's not what I meant at all." And then an argument ensued. My boyfriend defended me, and she just got even more angry, so she stormed off into her room. A couple days later, it was my birthday, and I celebrated it with my boyfriend and my family. It was such a great day. The next day, I was at my boyfriend's house, and his mother was deliberately avoiding me again. My boyfriend asked her why she was ignoring me and why she wasn't wishing me a happy birthday. His mom then started yelling and changed the topic, saying that she refuses to talk to a lazy person because apparently I'm not helping to clean her house. So I got up and said it's not my responsibility to clean her house. And honestly, where should I start? My boyfriend's mother is a severe hoarder, and she had a house inspection that day, so this was the first time in a year that she was even properly cleaning her house and doing any kind of yard work. The yard was literally full of weeds. I mean, how is this my responsibility? I understand that the average person would help out, but I'm sorry, if someone left that house or yard to rot away, then why should I have to clean it for you? I'm a visitor. I don't live there. So she basically called me lazy, a spoiled brat, as well as selfish. For so long, I've been nothing but nice to her. But that day, I was full of so much anger and just told her that she's behaving like a high school bully, and she's choosing to be petty instead of acting her age. I also said that she clearly hates me because she believes that I'm stealing her son away, when any logical woman her age should know that her son is bound to move out at some point and be in a relationship with another woman other than his mother. I also told her that the birthday present I got for her last year, which is a mini tree, I mean she likes plants after all, completely died because she wasn't watering it. She clearly hated me enough to try and let the tree I bought her dry up and no longer live. And when I said that, she went silent. I spent the rest of that day crying quietly in my room, and my boyfriend was comforting me. It just completely hurts. My family loves and respects my boyfriend, but his family hates me. And don't even get me started on his horrible narcissistic sister. All I've ever wanted was to be accepted into a loving family, and instead I have this nightmare pathetic excuse of a family. I love my boyfriend so much, but how can I even begin to deal with his family? What can I do to better my mental health while having his family a part of my life? I've already decided I won't visit them anymore, and once we have our own place, they aren't invited. Is this reasonable? What should I do? Honestly, from the sounds of it, it really does not seem like they want to be a part of your life. Like they actively treat you like garbage, and they're trying to pretend like you're stealing away their son. Like that's not how this works at all. He is bound to move out of that house, and she was probably just banking on her son basically buying her a house eventually. Like the mom in this situation literally just sounds lazy, and she was probably just banking on the fact that, hey, maybe he'll get me a house and I can retire. Like, come on, how could you possibly put that kind of pressure on your son like that? That's not fair, and it it doesn't allow him to do anything with his life. Like, does your boyfriend's mom really think that he's going to be living with her for the rest of his life? Like, come on, he's got to get out there and have his own life eventually, right? If I was in your shoes, I probably would not spend any more time with her. I've got much better things to do, and I honestly have my own life waiting in front of me. Like, you are not in the wrong here. You've done everything you can to try and be on some kind of good terms with his mom, but it does not sound like she wants to play ball in the slightest. So truly, if you want to be with this guy, I just would expect her to give you the cold shoulder and for her to be nasty and really mean. And you don't deserve that in the slightest, but it kind of seems like this is what's going to come along with the territory. My boyfriend makes me feel bad about my job and is constantly downplaying how stressed out and mentally ill I feel. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years. My boyfriend is very successful and has a great career. Meanwhile, I'm a university dropout who works a minimum wage job. I grew up poor and I didn't have any sort of support system, and I struggle with depression and anxiety. My boyfriend, however, hasn't experienced any of those things. I don't think my boyfriend intends to do this, but he always makes me feel bad about my life. I feel like he secretly is ashamed of me because of my financial situation, as well as the job that I hold. Whenever I talk about stressful things that happen at work, he always mentions that it's an awful job with low pay and that I shouldn't care so much about it. I also feel 10 times worse about myself when he constantly mentions how well his friends are doing and how they have amazing careers. He also doesn't believe in mental health issues, so it's really difficult for me to explain to him why I am unable to do certain things or why I am the way that I am. How can I approach him about this topic? What should I do? I've got to be honest, there's a lot of red flags here. The biggest one that I can see is the fact that your boyfriend doesn't believe in mental health issues. That is honestly ridiculous and seriously so toxic. And you know what? Who cares if you're a university dropout? Who cares if you work a minimum wage job? You know what? You're working and you're doing the best that you can. You can always go back to school if you really wanted to, and this is not the end-all be-all. The fact that he's being so dismissive of your life and the way you feel is really toxic in my opinion. There's no reason for him to act like that. If he cared, he would be more involved in your life and maybe even trying to help you find a better job instead of just being like, I don't know why you care about this job so much. And you know what? Some of those minimum wage jobs are way more stressful than anything else that's higher up. There's a good chance you work with the public, and guess what? The public is absolutely awful sometimes. There are silver linings, but you know what? For the most part, people can be absolutely miserable when you're trying to serve them. So I would not let your boyfriend get under your skin. He clearly does not have the perspective that you do, and he seriously needs to change his perspective. Because you know what? You're doing the best that you can. And if he can't see that, then you know what? That's his problem, not yours. My entitled sister-in-law absolutely ruins every contact she has with her family, treating everybody like garbage, as well as being stingy with her money, as well as her time with everybody around her. And after years of putting up with this kind of treatment, everyone in the family turns on her and decides that enough is enough. And as a result, she gets put in her place. Here's what happened. Okay, so buckle up because I've been holding on to this story for a long time. And when I tell you that this is a hot mess, this is a hot, steaming, bubbling mess of a mess. So my sister-in-law has cut all ties with me and my husband, telling us that she wants nothing to do with us ever again because their mother asked her for $10 and we had the audacity to side with my mother-in-law when my sister-in-law refused. It sounds petty, and you know what? It really is. For context, this story does not occur in the United States. This all happened in the Caribbean. My husband has 3 siblings. His first brother will watch you drown to save some rope. His second brother is the sweetest but a bit naive. And his sister-in-law? Oh boy, I don't have anything to compare her to. But I think this story will probably give you a hint as to how bad she really is. It's also important to note that my sister-in-law is the baby of the family and the only girl. She was spoiled rotten before their parents split up. And things only got worse once the separation became permanent. My sister-in-law would play parent against parent and throw her brothers under the bus regularly. My husband and I watched my sister-in-law's behavior get more and more toxic as she grew into an adult. But there is absolutely no talking to my mother-in-law or father-in-law. Both parents felt guilty about the fact that of the siblings, my sister-in-law was the one that grew up in the broken home. So they excused every tantrum, every snarky remark, and every selfish act. Once when she was 12 years old, my sister-in-law stole a pair of underwear from the dryer. My husband and I lived in the same duplex as my mother-in-law for a while. I actually thought the underwear had been sacrificed to the dryer instead of a sock that cycle, and that was until about a month later. I saw my sister-in-law throw the underwear into our kitchen through the open back door. When I went over to their apartment to ask my sister-in-law why she stole the underwear, my mother-in-law got upset at me and told my husband to make me apologize to the sister-in-law, as she thought I was accusing her of something that she didn't do, even though I saw her do it with my own eyes. My sister-in-law had the family wrapped around her little finger. Fast forward to 2020, and all the siblings were in their early to late 20s. The first brother and the second brother, as well as the sister-in-law, decided to remain living with the mother-in-law because she only had to pay $200 each month for rent, as well as utilities and groceries. My mother-in-law still felt guilty about breaking up the family, so she sacrificed her freedom and needs to take responsibility for more than half of the monthly expenses, while her kids would just party. And I mean, they literally partied all the time. One summer, my mother-in-law literally couldn't even afford shoes for work, but my sister-in-law went on a week's vacation abroad. But something else happened in 2020, right? Well, enter the pandemic. My mother-in-law was laid off permanently from her job, so she looked to her adult children for financial support until she could find another job. I emphasize adult because at some point in our lives, children will have to help their parents. We just had to start a bit earlier, but it wasn't going to be for the rest of the mother-in-law's life just yet. The four siblings just had to hold down the fort until the mother-in-law found a new job. It was honestly simple. Well, the first brother wasn't pleased, but he's reasonable once you get him to sit down and listen to some sense. The second brother also just rolled with the punches. But when it comes to the sister-in-law, after 5 months, she moved out to live with her boyfriend without any warning. All my sister-in-law said as she packed her things was that she was too young to take care of her mom and she has her own life to live. Never mind her two brothers and my husband all chipping in equally. Apparently, my sister-in-law had been carrying the load all by herself, and she had just had enough. She was so tired that she left her dog with my mother-in-law to take care of it with no money. We were all left speechless. Not only had she been living with my mother-in-law for almost 2 years, paying for practically nothing, but my mother-in-law also called in a favor with a friend to get the sister-in-law a job right out of high school, something that she didn't even apply for. What's worse is that the mom, with the help of me and my husband, bought my sister-in-law a car with no expectation of ever being repaid. And you better believe that she never offered to pay us back either. Without my mother-in-law's help, my sister-in-law would have done nothing, but she left my mother-in-law up a creek without a paddle, and my mother-in-law ended up losing her apartment. While my husband and his family have learned to take my sister-in-law's awful behavior, her boyfriend was no such sucker. My sister-in-law's boyfriend dumped her after a year. He's an absolute saint. I'm surprised he even lasted that long, and he told her to scram. And guess who she came crawling back to? That's right, her mom. And she took her back in without any kind of complaint. It was disgusting. Because the sister-in-law had abandoned the family, brother 1 had moved in with his girlfriend, and brother 2 had been forced to find an apartment and take the mother-in-law in. Yet there the sister was, sleeping on brother 2's couch. But I'm only the daughter-in-law. I can't tell a mother how to handle her child. I tell my husband my thoughts, of course, but he is such a softie. He and his mom helped his sister find her own apartment, since the second brother couldn't accommodate his sister in the long term. And when she gets evicted after a year for being a brat to her landlord all the time, my husband's mother, as well as him, helped my sister-in-law find another apartment. I even gave her $700 from my personal savings so that she can pay the deposit on the place. And now we're finally getting to the real story I want to tell. So we loaned my sister-in-law the $700 in the summer of 2022, with the expectation that she pay me back at least $100 a month. The operative word here was expectation, but the reality was that my sister-in-law didn't pay us back at all. Every month she had an excuse for my husband as to why she couldn't pay us in increments. She would say stuff like, "Oh, I need to buy a new car battery. I had to go to the doctor and it was so expensive." In fact, she was so dumb about it that she used the battery excuse twice in a row without realizing it. I had already resigned myself to the cold reality that I will never get that $700 back ever. We're not well off by any means, my husband and I, but we're not stingy. If the family needs help, we help out, but rarely do we receive any thanks or compensation. But I've grown used to it. So when my sister-in-law dodged out of paying us back, I didn't make a fuss. Yes, I knew she was spending money on absolute garbage every week, as well as $20 lunches every day that she would flaunt in front of my mother-in-law all the time. But honestly, what could I do? I was more upset that my sister-in-law would actually leave work every day to eat her $20 sushi bento box at my mother-in-law's place without ever offering my mother-in-law a bite, let alone a plate to eat of her own. But this is not about the $700 that I loaned her. No, this is about literally $10, and it was a debacle. My mother-in-law was still still living with brother 2, and brother 2 was getting tired. See, even though the 3 brothers were equally supporting their mother until she got her life together, the second brother had to live with her. That meant his social and romantic life had to come to a halt. Not to mention he was responsible for his mother's pets and his sister's dog. The second brother had the added pressure of paying for extra utility use and the responsibility of transporting his mother and the pets all around the place. Notice I never said anything about his sister helping out. Well, that's because in his sister's mind, she provided a different kind of support. Every purple moon, my sister-in-law would let her mother crash on her couch. No, she didn't let her mother live with her. She essentially invited her mother over for a sleepover once in a while. Then the next day, my sister-in-law would ship her mother back to second brother's place. Never mind the fact that her brother was already taking care of her stupid dog. Never mind that the brother already supported his mother financially and kept a roof over her head. But the sad thing is that my mother-in-law adored the sleepovers with her daughter. She looked forward to the mother-daughter time, even though we all knew that time was spent at home on the couch watching Netflix. And the second brother wasn't pleased with the favoritism. Anyways, my mother-in-law was at my sister-in-law's apartment for one of those rare sleepovers, and my mother-in-law was strapped for cash. She needed toothpaste and dog food for the critters. So my mother-in-law asked my sister-in-law for $10, and my husband and I found out about a half hour later because my husband got this phone call. The sister-in-law started off by saying to my husband, "Something has gotta give with mom." My husband responded by saying, "What? Is mom being stubborn about something?" His sister then said, "No, I just can't deal with her asking for money anymore." So my husband responded by saying, "Okay, first of all, that's not what that expression means. Secondly, what do you mean? You don't support mom financially at all. Your brothers are the ones doing all of that." She then says, "Excuse me, I do a lot for mom, okay?" My husband then says, Okay, whatever you say. What happened?" His sister proceeds to tell him about the $10 that she requested. He puts his phone on speaker so I can hear this utter rubbish. The sister then says, "Honestly, I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore. Mom's gonna break me." My husband then says, "Really? $10 is gonna break you?" His sister doesn't take too kindly to this retort, so she proceeds to list the following excuses as to why she doesn't have $10 to give to her mother. "Listen, I can't do it because I have a car payment." My husband then chimes in and says, "No, you don't. We helped mom buy the car for you in full." She then tried to claim that she has car insurance to pay every month, but my husband kindly reminded her that it's an annual fee. "Well, I have utilities to pay." But my husband then said as well, "No, you don't. Your rent is all inclusive." "Well, not Netflix. That's not all inclusive. I had to pay my Netflix bill, you know." And when she said that, I was so blown away. "You had to pay your Netflix bill? Are you serious? That's your excuse?" At this point, my husband has had enough, but he knows his sister-in-law by now. If he rails on her like he wants to, she'll shut down. So being a good big brother, he offers advice instead. He says to her, "Okay, it seems like you're having trouble budgeting your money. Mom isn't wrong to ask for $10 though." She then tries to chime in that she needs gas for her car, but my husband continues, "Listen, I get it. You don't have $10, but the issue is that you never seem to have any money when family needs you, but you seem to always be able to find money for frivolous things like buying bento boxes as well as all this other stuff." This really upsets my sister-in-law because she says, "What I do with my money is my business." And she begins to raise her voice, but my husband says, "Listen, calm down. I'm just saying that you need to manage your money better. So how much is your weekly salary?" And eventually, after some back and forth, she finally admits that it's $450. My husband pulls out the old Excel budget file that we've been using for years, and he sets up a budget for his sister. Then he asks her how much money she has left for the coming week, but she claims that she doesn't have enough to give $10 to her mom. And after my husband tells her to please stop being belligerent, this was the last straw that broke her back. My sister-in-law pops off. She won't stand for this treatment. My husband has no right to make her feel so bad for not giving $10 away. If my sister-in-law says she doesn't have $10, well, she doesn't have $10. "Why is everyone always being so mean to her? Why is everyone always attacking me?" And this is all after all my sister-in-law supposedly does for her mother. She thinks that no one respects her. My sister-in-law lets my mother-in-law sleep on her couch, and my sister-in-law lets her mother use her Netflix. My husband responds by saying, "Oh, bravo. You let mom sleep on your couch and soak up the internet your landlord pays for. Thank you so much. Mom doesn't have to sleep on the street tonight." His sister went off. She said, "You know what? Maybe she should. I'm not the mother. I have my own money and my own life to live. If I want to buy sushi
sushi every day for lunch, I should be able to.
My husband responded back by saying, yeah, you can afford to eat sushi every day, but you haven't even paid my wife back a single cent of the $700 that she loaned you in the summer for the roof over your head. My sister-in-law then said some words that are not favorable and went off on this tangent, basically saying that she is done with this family. And then after that, she hangs up. People, within 2 minutes, I get a notification from my bank. Remember how my sister-in-law had so many expenses and couldn't afford to pay us back that $700? Remember how she had so many bills that month that she simply couldn't give my mother-in-law $10? Well, my sister-in-law sent me the full $700. She had it the entire time. She simply decided for months that she wasn't going to rush to pay it back. She probably thought that she'd never have to pay it back at all, but that's not even the worst of it. My husband's mother calls and she wants to know what happened. My sister-in-law called her a few minutes before to tell her that she transferred $50 into her account, and that was the last $50 she was ever going to get from her daughter. My sister-in-law then told her mom to have a nice life and to never contact her again. Now, of course, my husband is furious. The scheming brat had been cheating all of us. She'd taken the entire family for a ride. He tries to call his sister back to reprimand her for being so evil to their mother, but guess what? My sister-in-law has my husband blocked everywhere. My mother-in-law and husband talk about the situation, and after all of this, my husband is still concerned about my sister-in-law's well-being. My husband tells his mother about the budget that he'd worked out for his sister to try and help her. If she's only making $450 a week, then his sister needs to be more careful with her money. His mom then chimes in and says, $450? She doesn't make $450 a week. She makes $650. People, I literally fell on the floor. That entitled brat. My sister-in-law literally lied to my husband about her weekly salary just to try and get out of paying my mother-in-law $10. At this point, my mother-in-law realizes that her daughter doesn't care about anyone but herself, and it really hurts because this is her only daughter, and she agrees with my husband that this behavior cannot be accepted. My husband makes a pact with my mother-in-law to go no contact with her since she believes that she doesn't need to be with her family. So then tell me why the second brother calls us a week later to tell us that my mother-in-law is babysitting her daughter's new dog. Yes, this stupid lady has a new dog, not the dog that the second brother is taking care of. My sister-in-law got a new dog, and the moment my mother-in-law saw my sister's name on the phone screen, she took the call. This was about 4 months ago now, and my sister-in-law and her mother seem to be right as rain with each other, even though this nasty brat said that her mother should sleep on the street. Now, as for us, my sister-in-law still has my husband blocked on all platforms. I guess we are the bad guys after all, but how dare we call out my sister-in-law on all her garbage, especially after she refused to give $10 to her mother. The original poster actually has an update to this story before we go any further. This is what they had to say. So it's been a while since things went down with my sister-in-law, who cut contact with me and my husband because we thought she was being unreasonable and selfish towards her mother. Apparently, after my sister-in-law reconnected with her mother after saying all those awful things, they both started hatching a plan to move in together. They just had to wait until a lease would end in June. Well, April came around and the second brother was anxious for the news. He wants his space back to himself after almost 2 years of housing his mother. He wants to vape and drink a glass of whiskey without his mother nagging him. He wants to bring a girl over to wine and dine. Basically, he kinda wants his mom to move out. Well, I guess his mother asked his sister for that answer, and the sister just blew up. First, she called her brother back and told him to keep his nose out of her business and proceeded to block him as well on all platforms. So if you're keeping score, that's 2 brothers that have been completely blocked out. A week later, this entitled brat called her mother and said that her mother was too toxic to have in her life. And not only will she no longer be moving back in with her mom, but the sister is going no contact with everyone. And this caused a lot of turmoil for the mother. But we just rolled our eyes because we honestly really did see that coming. Then, just this Saturday, the second brother who got blocked got a notification from his bank. Someone had transferred $50 to his account. He was confused and decided to wait to see who sent it. Not an hour later, he got a call from an unknown number and it was his sister. Apparently, his sister bummed some money from her father, but the easiest and quickest way to get her money was to send it to her second brother. So because every other person in the world is a side character in this lady's personal soap opera, she decided to push her own narrative forward. So she told her father to send the money to her brother without asking the second brother for any permission. She then unblocked her second brother only long enough to command him to to withdraw the money as soon as possible so that she can swing by his apartment to pick it up. But the second brother just burst out laughing. He didn't even have the breath to tell this lady to get lost. He just laughed and hung up the phone. The second brother called my husband, and since the father didn't even wish either guy happy birthday this year, the brothers decided to use the $50 as a gift from their deadbeat father to buy drinks for a shindig that they planned on having for their uncle who came in on Friday from Europe. The party was Friday, and honestly, we had a good time. My husband came home laughing because apparently his sister really needed that $50 because she hounded and bothered her other brother nonstop. Finally, he relented and told her that she could come by and get the money at about 12 o'clock, which was 2 hours before the party was to start. He did it to avoid inviting her to the party, but also to avoid hurting her feelings. However, his stupid sister does things on her own time, so she arrived right at the height of the party. People were laughing, they were grilling, and having a merry time without her. And of course, the uncle felt bad for this sister, especially because he didn't know the situation. He asked her to stay and grab a plate, but she just said, "Oh no, I have other places to be," and then huffed off to her car and sped away in a dramatic fashion, a cloud of dust behind her and all. My husband says for a good hour, everyone talked about what a stink that woman was and how sorry they were that the brothers had to deal with such a sour sister all the time. But better yet, the first brother got a message soon after, and she wanted to know if the second brother and her mom had invited him and my husband to the party. And when the first brother had said yes, the sister literally sent a voice note ranting about how much she hates her brother, while also saying that she hates her mom, crying and screaming about how nobody appreciates her and how everybody treats her like a dog. But in that same breath, she simply doesn't care about any of us, and she just hates all of us. But please, pray tell, how could she expect anyone to invite her to anything if she cuts contact with everybody? So overall, karma is really sweet. This entitled sister really had it coming, and this was all because of her own doing. Let's just all take a breath and really take in what just happened. This entitled sister-in-law seriously is entitled. Like, she did everything she could to try and get her way. She would scam people out of money. She would avoid paying for things. She was stingy with her money. She worked every angle to get everything she ever wanted. And it was never enough. From the apartment to the car, literally everything was handed to her. She is so spoiled, it's not even funny. She will always ask for money and take it happily when it's handed out to her, but she will never give it out to anybody else. Like, what is wrong with this lady? This is not how family treats each other. This is not a good family member at all. Like, I understand that there's different cultures and stuff like that, but this behavior is so unacceptable. She should seriously be ashamed of herself. Like, honestly, what is wrong with her? And you can tell that she does this stuff all for attention. She pushes people away because she's like, "I'm gonna cut off contact with you," just so she can try and feel like the victim. Like, really? You're just being an idiot. You're pushing people away who clearly have some kind of connection with you. It's amazing to me that the brothers and the mom all have this like sense of obligation to try and help her out. Even though she's being a complete knucklehead, they still say, okay, let's try and bring her back in and try and help her out. Let's try and be reasonable. Let's set up some kind of budget. Let's do something to help her. But she keeps pushing people away and treating people like garbage. Literally, the entirety of her mess is her own fault. Everybody around her has tried so hard to help her, but she just keeps messing it up for herself and everybody else around her. So if I was in the original poster's shoes and I had any kind of say over this situation, I would honestly just say good riddance. She does not care about anyone but herself. She sounds incredibly entitled, and these are literally the consequences of her own actions. So I would not feel bad about this in the slightest, and honestly, she had what was coming to her. My entitled manager changes my job, claiming that my job was now to stay at my desk, look pretty, and just make sure I keep people happy. And as a result, I no longer help out at the warehouse I work at, and we fall behind in a serious way. And I've never been happier to maliciously comply to any kind of order at work in my life. Here's what happened. So for the sake of clarity, I'm going to say I work in an industry which is similar to warehousing. It is the same logic in the grand scheme of things. In my branch and several surrounding branches, there are only 2 staff members to keep the place running, so we all just wear casual uniforms, just a polo shirt and appropriate pants and footwear. I mainly do administration work, and I have a team member who works in the back end of things, but I'm capable and willing to jump outside when required of me. Some examples of me needing to work in the back would be if we have a huge rush, or if I need to send my teammate to help at another branch or out on the road to collect stock, and I have to fill in for him while he's gone. It's a pretty good setup because working outside really breaks up the monotony monotony of being stuck at a desk all day, and it's easy enough to do both parts of the job when I need to. Some genius in the head office decided he wanted to change the uniform for any and all administration staff to something a little more corporate and dressy, and I can only describe this uniform as a three-piece suit made with the heaviest fabrics known to man. Suddenly, I've gone from wearing a polo shirt, which is comfortable and easy to move around in, to wearing a white long-sleeve business shirt with a vest, as well as a jacket, complete with a shirt, stockings, and a slight heel. I straight up looked like a flight attendant working in a warehouse, and I can barely lift my arms high enough to hold my steering wheel on the drive to work. It was a poorly designed uniform, and I was so incredibly uncomfortable wearing it. And you know what? I was very quick to voice my anger. I first mentioned how it was unfair and borderline cruel to expect staff to wear such a thick and layered uniform when we live in Australia, particularly in a place well known for our consistently high temperatures and the harsh sunlight. I then asked how I would be expected to leave the desk to operate machinery and do any kind of heavy lifting in a suit, a skirt, and some heels. I was met with a promise that anyone working in administration and wearing a corporate uniform would not have to leave their desk to do any back-end work at all. I raised another concern, stating that we did not have enough staff for them to make this particular promise and still maintain our quality of work and hit all of our deadlines. And I was once again met with a strong guarantee that I would not have to do any physical labor in my day-to-day operations. But instead, they said something to me that I honestly never thought I would hear. They told me that I was ordered to sit at the desk and look pretty for clients and never move from there at all. So I decided right then and there I would get some revenge, and I would maliciously comply. So from that point onwards, I followed their instructions. I never left my desk. There would suddenly be long wait times for orders and fulfillments because my team member was on the road on a job and there was no one on site to continue his work until he got back. If my team member called in sick, I would spend the day pushing back deadlines with clients, which affected our targets and our reputation. Funnily enough, my teammate only started getting sick because I had to have the office aircon on freezing temperatures just so I wouldn't get some kind of heat stroke at my desk. I was honest with clients who had complaints, and I explained to them that I would usually step in to help and make sure that their needs were met, but was specifically instructed to not do that anymore, and then redirected their complaints through to the customer service in the head office. After a few months of this, I was invited to a meeting with 3 of my direct managers, as well as the human resources representative. They were clearly upset about the drop in productivity and the amount of complaints that we were receiving. I let them all say their piece before reminding them that I raised these concerns to them months ago, and I was merely following instructions given to me, which were adamantly clear that I was to take care of admin work at my desk, look pretty, and do nothing else. I let them know my hands were tied, so all I could do was look pretty and placate clients when we inevitably couldn't meet their needs as promised. I suggested hiring more warehouse staff to fill in the gaps left by the administration staff, who were now chained to their desk by their uniform and unable to ease the pressure of the workload like we used to. And at that point, I could see that that comment definitely hit them right where I wanted it to, and they simply couldn't argue with me for following their instructions. So eventually, I was told that they would get back to me on a solution moving forward. Well, here I am at work 2 weeks later, writing this out while wearing my old polo shirt uniform. I was fully prepared to find another job if their solution wasn't reasonable, and maybe I still will look to leave this place. But for now, I'll happily take this win. The management in this company are awful. They seriously decided, oh, you're just gonna have to sit there and look pretty. Not only is that an awful thing to say to somebody, but it's also incredibly demeaning, and it completely ignores this lady's expertise. She literally is cross-trained to work in the warehouse as well as handle all the administration stuff. She is not some ordinary secretary who's just taking phone calls. She is literally doing it all. And the fact that they wanted to try and put her at that desk and say, don't move from the desk, this is all you can do, is really, really toxic in my opinion. And if I was in this lady's shoes, you better believe I would be looking for another job. There's no way I would want to stay at an organization like that, who is clearly not going to take me seriously, who can, at the drop of a hat, tell me that I just need to sit there and look pretty. Like, no, maybe if you had a proper staff, I wouldn't have to forcefully cross-train just to do all this other work so we can still meet our deadlines and our targeted demographics. Because with how skilled the original poster definitely seems like they are, they do not deserve this kind of treatment in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked down below in the description. An entitled Karen keeps trying trying to use the bathroom in our building, despite the fact that she's not allowed to do it, and we only offered it to her as an emergency option if she needed it. And this is so obnoxious, and we are being disrupted so much that we seriously don't know what to do. So I work at a company that some people, myself included, come in early to prep their work, and the janitorial staff are cleaning and prepping for the day. It's a huge place, and this particular part of the company is empty, except for me and a single custodian. There is a school crossing close enough that people who are there to pick up their kids typically park in the lot and sit inside their cars until they see their kids coming. A few weeks ago, our custodian by the name of Carly, that's not her real name, is putting things in the trash outside and sees the new crossing guard by the name of Brittany, that's also not their real name, who's usually with her husband but was by herself this time. Carly tells Brittany that if there's an emergency of some kind, she should ring the delivery doorbell and Carly would probably hear it, and Brittany agrees. It should be noted that while I'm in the same section as Carly in my catacomb office area, I don't hear the bell ring at all. Fast forward to the start of the next day, and Brittany rings the doorbell. Because Carly is busy working and doesn't hear it right away, because she is far enough away in this big building, Brittany rings the bell multiple times. Carly is moving around and finally heard it, then starts running to the back door to let Brittany in, who at this point only had to use the bathroom. Now Carly is frustrated because she thought it was an A-class emergency, but relents out of human kindness and says sure, use the bathroom I guess. It should be noted that Brittany is a known person in the area for being kind of trashy by previous clueless Karen-type actions that she's taken in the community, among other things. Because people know who she is, they also know that she lives 2 blocks away from where she's crossing at. So it's literally a 3-minute drive here and a 30-minute crossing window and a 3-minute drive home. The next morning, Carly is cleaning by a window, but far enough away from the delivery area, and is jolted from a bang on the tall windows to see Brittany standing on her toes, pounding on the glass, looking in and screaming that she needs to use the bathroom again. Now, Carly is incredibly frustrated, but motions to the back and just lets her in. Carly is embarrassed and frustrated and flustered and tells Brittany sorry. She's cleaning and she can't always hear the bell where she's at, hopefully giving her some kind of hint that, you know what, she should probably just go home because she lives like right by there. But Brittany is annoyed and said that she nearly went to the bathroom in her pants, if you know what I mean. So she ran off and went to the bathroom. She doesn't even say thank you. And at this point, we all recognize that there was a pattern. So for the next week, Brittany rings the bell every morning to use the bathroom. And not just one ring, mind you, it's several rings, followed by a 10 to 15 second pause and several more if Carly isn't fast enough. It's come to the point where Carly is really frustrated because she's actually doing a job and she's usually not 15 to 30 seconds away from the door, so she has to hustle over there just to let Brittany in. And at this point, Carly already knows who Brittany is. She knows where she lives, and she's wondering why she doesn't just use the bathroom at her house before she leaves. She's finding it hard to believe that Brittany has any kind of pressing medical issue, that she can't go without 30 minutes of using a toilet just to do the single job that she's employed at. Monday comes and Carly tells me all that was going on. Now, Carly is a hardworking person. She's very honest, and it's frustrating that her kindness was being taken advantage of. She says that she doesn't want to answer the bell anymore, and she really doesn't know what to do. I told her we are not obligated to let Brittany use the bathroom. She has obviously overused an emergency tool available to her, and we'd probably get in trouble for letting non-employees in on a daily basis, despite the minimal security risk. I offered to go talk to Brittany myself, but Carly felt bad and asked me not to, but said that she just wasn't going to answer the door anymore and just pretend like she couldn't hear, and maybe she'd finally get the hint. Apparently, the bell rang several times in succession, and Carly absolutely heard it, but the call went unanswered. Later in the day, as school was let out, Brittany decided to make up for lost time and started ringing the bell to be let in. And this is while we were full of employees. A third employee who's close to the door, who is friends with Carly, had heard the entire story up to this point. She opens the door, tells Brittany this isn't her personal toilet, and that she's not to ring that bell anymore, and that she needs to figure out her own bathroom solution. The next morning, Carly is outside taking out the trash, and Brittany awkwardly tells Carly that her coworker yelled at her. Carly says, "Yeah, I heard that," and pauses to stare at Brittany to see if there's anything else Brittany was planning to add to the conversation. And upon seeing nothing but an awkward stare back, she goes back inside and continues to do her job. It has now been 2 days, and Brittany still hasn't rung the bell since, and hopefully it stays that way. Honestly, I hate people like this so much. Brittany was so far out of line. She was using something that was clearly only meant for an emergency, just as her personal spot to go use the bathroom. Like, come on, that's so ignorant. Carly Carly was clearly just trying to do the right thing, and she was trying to help somebody out and be nice. She didn't have to tell this crossing guard that, hey, you can come and use our building if something goes wrong. She could have just minded her own business and said, I'm not helping anybody. But she was literally just trying to be nice to this crossing guard, only for them to then completely wear out their welcome. Like, how do you not catch on that this is obnoxious? But at least Carly had a coworker who was more than willing to put this lady in her place. She did not mince words in the slightest. And I think in most cases, for people like this, who like to overstay their welcome and are completely oblivious to any kind of social clues, being completely transparent and honest with them might be the only way to get them to stop. My friend constantly makes unfunny jokes that really hurt and offend me. And anytime I try to say something about it, he claims that I'm just easily offended and I just need to learn how to take a joke. And things only seem to be getting worse and worse, and I seriously don't know what to do. So my friend and I have known each other for a little over a year, and we've been getting along really well until recently. A series of incidents has led me to reevaluate whether he has a place in my life anymore. And the first incident started in the first week of April, where he randomly sent me this message. He said, I am so sorry to be doing this by text message because I'm not strong enough to do it in person. I like you a lot. Knowing you has been comparable to sitting next to a random person in a roller coaster, getting to know them really well during the ride, and now I feel like we're at the end of the ride. I have to step off from the ride. I'm a grown-up with grown-up problems, and I think we should go to different rides for different people. Now, I don't watch too much TV. I watch a handful of shows very infrequently, and he knows pretty much all of what I watch. I was extremely confused and upset when I received this message, and I was stunned into silence because I have lost a friend before after hearing something similar, so I naturally assumed that the same thing was happening right now. I didn't reply to this message. I immediately called my best friend because I was emotional and having a hard time breathing. We spoke for some time and I took a nap, and when I woke up, he had sent me a long message about how he would be busier at work due to a role change, and that what he had sent me was a joke. Specifically, it was a bit from Rick and Morty. Now, I have never watched this show, and he knows this. I told him that his sense of humor was very cruel, and he started arguing with me about how he was just pulling my leg, and if it bothered me so much, I should have messaged him immediately, instead of, as he put it, letting him simmer until I thought he had suffered enough. According to him, I should have realized that he was joking because everything in his message was off character. He followed this up with a long rant about how no one in real life would say that I'm a grown-up with grown-up problems, how nothing in his above message was in line with how he usually spoke, and how the only reactions warranted to that message were to say either that is hilarious or what is happening, and that this is akin to a man telling his wife of 50 years that he was leaving her for a hot chick he met online. So essentially, not something that's likely gonna happen. The rest of his rant was about how he couldn't focus on that day at work, and this was all because of my lack of response, and how he was really worried that I had misunderstood. He then said the following: I brushed off everything I said and decided to focus on and pick apart all the stuff around it. But honestly, I think you can't say something so tone deaf and out of place, especially over text message, and expect the other person to not only understand the context, but find it funny simply because you call it a joke. The second incident was a day after this. He bought me a subscription to the self-authoring suite without asking me if I was interested, and when I brought it up, he said to me, I want you to commit to this. I don't care if you think I'm pushing you into something weird, just tell me that you'll do it. Maybe not tomorrow, but take your time and just do it. You are going to be a careless idiot forever otherwise. I want to hear you say that you'll do it. I paid money for it. I could have just shut up and bought the program that didn't allow me to send it to anyone else, but I bought this one because I thought you could do it too. But honestly, this was unsolicited advice. I never asked for his help, and for him to thrust it on me and act like he was doing me a favor, it was honestly not nice. The third incident might seem a little trivial, but it kind of reinforces the idea that he doesn't have a functional sense of humor. So I am home for a few weeks, and I bought him a specific food item from my hometown that he had asked for, and I managed to send it back with a friend by the name of Jane, that's not her real name, that was visiting me from the city that I usually live in. Jane was supposed to meet at the railway station and texted him just before her train arrived. Jane introduced herself as my friend and said that she would be there in some time, as well as where he was supposed to meet her. He texted back saying he didn't know me and that Jane had the wrong number. Jane called me and asked me what to do, so I called my friend up and I asked him why he said that, but he just said, it was a joke, come on, and the conversation ended right there. He texted my friend immediately asking where you were getting down exactly, to which Jane rightfully said, I think you have the wrong number. He texted her an apology and they met. She gave gave him the item, and that was it. Honestly, that was not a joke. More importantly, Jane is a complete stranger to him, and she did him a courtesy by lugging his item with her all the way. How do you joke with someone that you've never met about something that isn't funny? In retaliation, I blocked his number, and I did that as a joke for about 2 days. He tried texting me every day until I responded on Discord. When I told him it was just a joke, he didn't find it funny and says he was very upset. He said I was being rude. I said that I was just making jokes in the same vein that he does. He then said, "It's never on you if you don't get it, and it's always on me that you don't. How does that work?" Which is honestly bonkers to me. So this really begs the question, are the above reasons enough for me to consider taking a break from this friendship? I really don't want to explain my perspective to him each time, especially when he refuses to listen and keeps asserting that he is the victim, as well as constantly saying that everyone he knows would have found his jokes funny. I'm honestly at a loss, and I seriously don't know what to do. This does not sound like a friend in the slightest. This sounds like a bully who is clearly stringing you along, and he's doing it because he knows he can get away with it. Like, this guy sounds awful, and I don't know why you're putting up with this. This isn't grounds just to take a break from the friendship. This is grounds to be like, you know what? I don't want to be your friend anymore. You keep offending me, you're really awful, and I don't want to be around you. You just need to put your foot down if you really want some kind of change. Like, none of the things he did were jokes. They were cruel, they were unusual, and they were mean. There's no mutual repertoire between the two of you that would even excuse any of this in the slightest. Like, friendships are supposed to be relaxing, easy, joyful, and uplifting. And this is literally just not that. It probably feels like this friendship is some kind of chore. And that's not fair for you in the slightest. Like, that really isn't. He may actually think that these things that he's doing are funny, but you know what? They're not funny. They're immature and they're very cruel. So if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would put up with that in the slightest. I would definitely say that it's time to call it quits on this guy, and I would move on and find other friends. My fiance is terrible with money, even going as far as falling for scams for fake Taylor Swift concert tickets. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my fiance is terrible with money, and it really upsets me. She insists we spend money on stupid stuff that we don't need. For example, she recently made me go in half on patio furniture, which I didn't even really want, and wouldn't stop complaining until I agreed. The most recent debacle that has me mad beyond means is that she called me asking in a very demanding way that I loan her money to purchase Taylor Swift tickets from some people she found online. I say it's a bad idea, and it's likely a scam, and that we should be saving money for our honeymoon, which so far I'm the only one who's been saving for anything. She then gets mad at me, and I just have to give her the money to avoid an argument. And guess what? It turns out to be a complete scam. This situation angers me even more, as it really seems like things like the honeymoon are on the back burner in her mind, while selfish things like Taylor Swift concert tickets apparently take priority spending-wise. I guess I'm looking for advice on how to deal with this. Is there something I can do to stop her from being terrible with money? What should I do? Honestly, I don't know if there's anything you can do to stop your fiance from being terrible with money, but what you can do is stop caving anytime some kind of argument might come around. The fact that you cave so quickly just to avoid an argument is evidence enough that you need to really stand your ground. You need to say, no, I'm not giving you money for this thing. We need to save money for our honeymoon, and that's what I'm doing. And that might be your only saving grace when it comes to having any kind of financial responsibility. And unfortunately, unless some things change between you and your fiance, this is a really good window into how she's probably gonna spend money in your marriage. Like, you're just engaged right now. You're in the process of getting married, and she is already showing that she does not do well with money. And in my opinion, when it comes to a relationship, this is a very important aspect of it that you cannot ignore. So hopefully you're able to figure this one out, because I'm with you. If my fiance spent my money on tickets that turned out to be a scam, I would be furious as well. My entitled stepmother tried to destroy a baby shower by changing all of the decorations around to what she specifically wanted. But in the end, we get revenge and we get the last laugh, as we switched all of her horrible decorations around at the last second, completely shocking her and putting her in her place. Here's what happened. So my fiance Jane found out that she was pregnant back in June of 2021, and we announced it to all of our families in August. All of the names in this story are fake, by the way. At first, my stepmother was completely uninterested in our baby. Not that I expected much from that woman, whose actual reaction to our pregnancy announcement was to ask Jane if she was sure that it was mine, which is something even my dad yelled at her about. But she barely acknowledged the fact that we are expecting a baby. Instead, she was more interested in my stepbrother, who was also engaged and would give her beautiful grandbaby soon. But But you know what? I have no complaints. We do not want her involved, and we didn't even have to say anything in the first place. Planning our baby shower was complicated. Both me and Jane would have to work until the holidays, and I wanted to be involved. The due date was February 2022, so we decided on early January as the best period of time. We enlisted 2 people as planners, my sister, who we will call Laura, and Jane's best friend by the name of Nina. Me and Jane are mostly laid-back people. We didn't want a big party, nor did we want to spend too much money on it. We were saving for both our baby and the wedding, so we decided early on that the shower would be co-ed. It would also have to be indoors again in January, and we settled on a guest list of about 25 people plus about a dozen kids. We came up with the idea of a pizza party. So me, Jane, and someone by the name of Luke, who was my brother-in-law, have had homemade pizza nights weekly since I moved in, and we thought it would be fun to incorporate that into the shower. Nina even found an event venue with a pizza oven, and Laura figured out ways to incorporate classic baby shower stuff into the theme. The resulting plans were awesome. You would make your own pizza, you would have non-alcoholic drinks, and plain bodysuits for the kids to customize. Nina and Laura mixed pizza decor with baby decor and found pizza-shaped sweets. It almost seemed messy, and I was surprised they made it work, but we loved it. Most of the planning was finished by the middle of November. Well, later that month, my stepbrother's fiance left him for her ex. They'd been together for 4 years at that point, and it was both sudden and traumatizing for him. He was absolutely devastated. My stepmother then realized the grandkids she dreamed of would take longer to come than she had thought. So naturally, without her son's future children to obsess over, she moved over to mine. Suddenly, my stepmother went from aloof relative to excited grandma-to-be. Her Facebook posts were incredibly tacky, basically hamming it up as the future grandma of my kid. At first, we were too busy finishing things up at work, as well as getting ready for the holidays to worry about any of that. But it did not take long for her to start pestering us about planning the baby shower, as well as a gender reveal. We denied the possibility of a gender reveal, no offense to those who like them, but we really don't. Plus, we decided to wait until birth to find that out. My stepmother tried to get us to find out and tell her as some kind of Christmas present, but we definitely did not do that. We also denied her the baby shower. She told my father, and he talked Laura into letting her help out with the plans. Laura was still living with them at the time, so she didn't have much of a choice. She called Lena and they met my stepmother for coffee. Though I wasn't there for that meeting, Laura told me what happened later. Before they could even mention their plans, my stepmother started talking about hers. According to Laura, she pulled a shockingly thick binder out, complete with the words "Oh baby" on the cover, with colorful tabs and pieces of fabric poking out, all from her purse, and skipped to the shower section. It was short compared to the rest of the binder, but it was still very long, and it was all to describe her one and only baby shower project. Laura sent me pictures, and oh boy, it was a mess. I'll give you this. It looked like the best baby shower you would ever see on Instagram. That being said, it also was barely functional and obviously very expensive. There were balloons, oversized teddy bears, giant alphabet blocks, and cringeworthy signs everywhere. My stepmother was going for pretty over cozy, with uncomfortable chairs and some fancy food ideas that didn't even look edible. Most of them just had soft cheeses, which Jane could not eat. The color palette was just 3 different shades of pink, with gold accents all over the place. Now, we would be fine with a pink shower if it at least tried to mix things up just a little bit, but my stepmother's pictures looked like Barbie had puked all over Hello Kitty's birthday party. When Nina tried to remind her that we didn't know if it was a boy or a girl, my stepmother said, "Well, I just know that it's a girl." But as a spoiler alert, it wasn't. My stepmother also wanted an all-female, child-free party with fancy caterers and alcohol. She had written down a guest suggestion list containing some of her closest friends, and on that list, my mom wasn't there and neither was Jane's mom. She also planned party games that no one had any interest in trying out. Basically, the only thing everyone could agree on was to hold the party indoors. Laura and Nina weren't given an opportunity to show her their plans until she was done, and once they could, they explained that while they could find a way to incorporate some of the stepmother's ideas, they had already settled on a pizza theme. She tried to protest, but Laura stated that it was kind of them to even offer that, as the shower was a month away and we had already greenlit their plans. The stepmother even tried to call me just to try and get them to change their minds, but I just repeated their words back to her. My dad also found out that he couldn't come to the baby shower, so he didn't have a say in anything anymore. The holidays came around down and the subject was dropped. My stepmother seemed to be okay with the pizza party idea, and Nina managed to pair some of the pink decor that my stepmother wanted just to try and match it with the blue stuff, and even added one of the huge teddy bears. Fast forward to a week before the shower, and Jane was almost 8 months pregnant. Everything had been bought, and all the guests had been RSVP'd, and pretty much everything was ready to go. The shower was set up at 7 o'clock p.m., but my stepmother offered to get to the venue earlier to prepare for everything. Now, Laura agreed, mostly because she knew that the stepmother would complain if she didn't get to do anything, and the venue even let them drop off their decorations before the party. Me and Jane promised to get there at 6. 2 days before the shower, however, the venue called up Nina. They told her that my stepmother had stopped by to drop off large, heavy boxes of what she called a little surprise for all of us. She informed them that she planned on showing up at 3:30 p.m. to start setting up for the baby shower, and they were calling to reinforce that the venue was only booked past 4 p.m. since the stepmother almost threw a tantrum when they told her that. All the decor was still at Nina's place, so she called Laura to check if they'd left anything with the stepmother. Thankfully, my sister is both smart and used to this garbage, so she drove to the venue the next day and asked to see the stepmother's boxes. She told me she wasn't even surprised at its contents when she opened them, but she was still shocked at the stepmother's audacity. All of the boxes were filled with pink, frilly decorations, and some of them seemed to be the exact same items that the stepmother had initially shown Laura and Nina. The signs, the balloons, the placemats, everything. And it was right about then that Laura realized why the stepmother intended to get to the venue earlier. She was gonna set up that baby shower that she had planned and pretty much force all of us to party in the Barbie nightmare hellscape. She called Nina to try and figure out what to do. Neither of them could come at 4 p.m., so it was almost inevitable for the stepmother to get her way. The most obvious solution, though, that they came up with was to throw everything away, but Laura had a better idea. That night, they called me and Jane. They said to me, "So, do you want to destroy a party in 2 hours?" Laura got home and invited the stepmother to go to the salon with her, lying about having some kind of coupons or something like that. The stepmother agreed, and they planned on going right after the stepmother was done preparing for the baby shower. At 4 p.m. the next day, the stepmother got to the venue. She was done setting things up by 5 o'clock and quickly left to meet Laura at the salon. Once they got together, Laura texted Nina that the coast was clear, and after that, me, Jane, and Nina got to work on the venue. And sure enough, my stepmother had prepared her party, and this place was so pink that it made all of us nauseous. For the next 2 hours, Laura distracted the stepmother at the salon, while the three of us quickly took down every piece of decor that the stepmother had put up and replaced it with the pizza party stuff. We set up the activities. We made up the tables. We put every pink item we found back in my stepmother's stupid boxes. It was actually really fun too. We were done only minutes before the shower started. A handful of guests arrived before the stepmother did, so I barely saw her all night. Laura told me that when they got there, my stepmother's jaw dropped as she tried to make sense of what had happened to all her pink decor. My sister just smiled and whispered in her ear, "Nice try," and went to help Luke customize a bodysuit. Overall, the baby shower was everything that we had hoped for. Our friends were there, people had fun, and we had a ton of pizza. So I didn't really care that the stepmother spent the whole party literally sulking in the corner. At one point, Nina did catch her trying to put little pink bows on top of the cupcakes, but she quickly shut that down. I gave Laura and Nina full credit for saving the day. My stepmother's interest in our baby quickly passed after that. She stopped wearing her future grandma shirts, didn't come to see us at the hospital when he was born, and even refused to acknowledge that he was a boy until she met him a few weeks later. And up until we went no contact with her, she was a very loose definition of the word grandmother, and I couldn't be more grateful that my son will never know her. That is seriously hilarious. This stepmother seriously thought that she was being slick. Did she seriously think she could go in early and change everything about this baby shower to what she wanted? Like, what in the world is wrong with her? Why would you do that to someone else's baby shower? It kind of makes sense why this original poster went no contact with this lady, because this behavior is so insane. If she wanted to be involved, she should have fallen in line with what they already planned months in advance. The original poster goes on to say that they've only ever had problems with this lady. So honestly, for the sake of your own son, I don't blame you for kicking her out of your life. She is clearly toxic and she doesn't actually care about you. She clearly only considers you as second best, and she definitely doesn't care about that boy at all. So hopefully this lady stays out of your life completely, because this lady seriously tried to destroy this baby shower, and that is absolutely unacceptable. If you like like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. An entitled customer refuses to get served by a woman at a restaurant that I work at, and even goes as far as to lie and claim that I was being rude to him. And this was all incredibly frustrating and so offensive. Here's what happened. So I've been in the service industry for 9 years, and I've dealt with all kinds of people, but this one really stuck with me. This happened a little over a year ago. So in my restaurant, we have a teamwork-based system where we greet each other's tables, run food for each other's tables, and clear off everybody else's tables. It's a great system, and we all hold each other accountable. We're still responsible for our own sections, and we don't have to tip pool, so we still keep the tips even if other servers help out. I got sat with a middle-aged couple, and I saw them get greeted by a server. Once the server was getting their waters made, I told them I could take the waters to them. I went to drop them off, and I did my whole spiel. Hello and welcome, my name is such and such, and I will be taking care of you this evening. The man immediately was confused and said that they already had a server. This happens sometimes when we greet each other's tables, but I explained to them that the server by the name of Eric was getting them started with their drinks, while I will be their main server. The man was very certain that Eric was his server, but eventually gave in when I kept explaining to them that Eric was helping me out. I walked off to give them a few moments to decide on their entrees, and I saw them talking to my manager from a distance. My manager came back and told me that he does not want to be served by me and insisted that Eric was a far better server than me. And this is with what little interaction he had with the both of us. He also told her that he would not take no for an answer and he would only be served by Eric since apparently I was very rude. Now, Eric had already been cut and was almost ready to leave, but my manager had him finish serving the table. He was mad that the guy didn't just keep me as their server, and I was upset that someone would lie and call me rude. Later on, Eric finished with the table and they paid out. My manager asked if the guy paid with a card, and Eric told her that he had. So my manager looked at the card and saw his full name. I asked what she was doing, and she said that the way he was talking to her was really demeaning. She said he was surprised that she was a manager and asked if there was anyone else that he could talk to. She said that he had talked to her as if she was stupid and didn't know anything. She looked up his name and found his Facebook along with his business. We clicked on the website to his dentistry business and we followed what he was doing just for a little bit. We also noticed that there was one single review for his business, which is weird, but I guess not super uncommon. So we decided to click on it and see what it was all about. And it was a single 1-star review. It read, "Do not go here." I was very uncomfortable around this man as he tried to hide his blatant misogyny. We were shocked, but honestly not that surprised. I guess it was the first time I was really around someone who actually hated women. At first, I was really upset because he made me feel like I did something wrong, but then I realized there was really nothing I could have done to make him like me. Even Eric said that during his service, the man did not let his significant other talk at all and would switch between calling her his girlfriend and his wife. I also can't imagine running a business where half of your clientele are women while still basically treating them all this way. That guy seriously sounds incredibly creepy, and I'm really surprised that the manager allowed this guy to stick around. Like, first off, Eric was out the door. His shift was over and he was about to leave. But this manager decided to try and make him stay just to make this misogynistic customer happy. Like, seriously, she should have told him to take a hike. You do not have to put up with that kind of behavior, and honestly, I would just tell them to leave if I was in her shoes. And it's so annoying that he just lied about this lady and how she was being rude to him even though that's not true. So hopefully this guy never comes back, and if he does and tries that again, hopefully the manager has some kind of backbone and they tell him to get lost. An entitled man-child demands a full refund after we won't allow his untrained dog into our breakfast room. And now after putting him in his place, I'm waiting for his bad review to pop up online about our hotel. Here's what happened. So this happened just this morning when I finished my shift as a night receptionist at a 4-star family-style hotel. I had an encounter with an entitled man, his significant other, and their dog. They were on their way to the breakfast room, which leads past the front desk, where I informed them that dogs are not allowed in our breakfast room, and if they would kindly consider leaving the dog in the room or eating their breakfast in the lobby or even their room. I gave them some kind of option they could work with. And the reason why we don't let the dogs in the breakfast room is because it is fully carpeted. Now, this entitled guy is a butch dude. He's big, he has tattoos all over, and he pretty much immediately exploded on me, yelling at me by saying, "You're a dog hotel. Of course my dog is allowed in there." I guess he thinks he's pretty intimidating. I explained that while we allow dogs on one floor of the hotel, as well as one of the restaurants, there are unfortunately multiple reasons for the no dog policy in our breakfast room. room, specifically because of allergies or phobias of the other guests, as well as food safety and then some. Usually we inform guests with dogs about this at check-in, and I apologize that it didn't happen this time, even though it probably did and he just didn't listen. I also explained that we are by no means a dog hotel and we do not advertise it as such. Well, as you could probably guess, he got really aggressive and yelled louder, disturbing every guest that was present. He demanded a full refund for his room and told me they would book a different hotel next time. He called me all these names and then some, but I just apologize again for their bad experience, and while I understand that they will book somewhere else next time, a refund is not an option. And as you can probably guess, he did not like that answer in the slightest. By the way, the dog was long-haired. He was not on a leash, and during our discussion, it was roaming around the hotel lobby, approaching other guests as well as barking. So this dog was by no means trained at all. So there was no way you could have it in a room with food and many strangers. This was definitely not a service dog. His significant other observed the whole thing from the lobby and did nothing to keep the dog under control, while her jerk of a boyfriend was absolutely rude to me and everybody else. I ended up informing my manager about the refund request, which I'm pretty sure will be denied, and got out of there as soon as possible. Now it's time for bed. I'm currently waiting to see that bad review pop up online just so I can have a good laugh about this ridiculous dude and his tiny man energy. Yeah, that guy thought he could get away with whatever he wants simply because he's big and has a bunch of tattoos. Like, no, that's not a dog hotel. They don't advertise as such, that's not how it works. And this guy should feel lucky that his dog was allowed in the hotel in the first place. A lot of places just don't let that slide at all. They don't have a specific hotel floor allowing that, so booking somewhere else probably won't be an option depending on where this place is. So I really just hate people like this. And it doesn't help that the dog is clearly not trained. They're walking around all over the breakfast room floor, they're coming up to strangers, they're barking, and no one's doing anything about it. So even if this dog was trained, it's evidence that this entitled guy's not going to take care of the dog at all. He's going to allow this behavior, and it's just going to escalate out of control. That's usually how these things work. So good for the original poster for standing their ground. They didn't allow this guy to walk all over him, and they took this negative attitude in stride. And honestly, when it comes to complaints and weird entitled customers like this, standing your ground really is the best thing to do that will shut them down. My best friend is in love with me, and I don't know what to do considering the fact that I now have another boyfriend, and I'm not sure how they are going to react. Here's what happened. So to start things out, we've been best friends for roughly 2 years now. It started off great. We get along really well, and we are just comfortable around each other. I was in a relationship in the beginning of our friendship, and eventually I broke up with the guy. Around the time that we broke up, my friend expressed that he had feelings for me. I explained that I didn't have those feelings in return, and this would be strictly a friendship between the two of us. He said he agreed, and off we went. Ever since that moment, I've been trying my best to set boundaries and stay away from anything that might have been a little bit too much of a relationship, just to avoid giving him the wrong impression. For example, the only physical contact we have is a hug, and that's only when we first see each other, nothing more. If we go out, I don't let him pay for stuff, as well as anything else that would make it seem like we're a couple. I've been seeing a new guy, and it's been amazing so far. I really see this going somewhere, and I'm really worried that this relationship with my friend will give him the wrong impression. I don't do anything I'd be uncomfortable with if he did it with his female friends. I don't know what to do. I really value my friendship, but him liking me is getting to be a bit too much. I don't want to lose him as a friend since he is one of my only friends. What should I do? I can definitely see both sides of this. I can totally see that the original poster would be worried that her friendship with this guy friend would somehow seem weird to her new boyfriend. Like, I totally understand that anxiety, and I think you're right to be cautious about any kind of false narrative. Like, that's understandable in my opinion. But maybe the problem is that you don't have other friends. Maybe you should try to get other female friends in your life. That way it'll be less sketchy, and you can have more people around you than just this one guy who clearly has a crush on you. And let's be honest, that crush has not gone away. If he still is spending all this time with you, and he's getting a free hug from you anytime he sees you, I can guarantee you that he probably still likes you. And I know from the boyfriend's perspective, eventually he's gonna find out about this guy, and he's gonna see you giving him a hug every time he comes by. And that's probably gonna be a big question mark in his head. Like, who is this guy and why are you hugging him? I thought I was the only guy that you wanted to be with. Like, that conversation is definitely going to come up. So if you really do want to try and keep this friend around, I would at least make the effort of broadening your friend group so that you can try and avoid just only having him as a friend. Because otherwise, I just don't think think that this relationship is going to work out. An entitled customer tries to scam me and my manager into getting a free car wash for his car, and when we deny his request, he claims that we're discriminating against him, stating that he's gonna go to our general manager just to try and get us in trouble. Here's what happened. So today, an entitled customer came in claiming that he had called about getting a rewash after apparently our car wash didn't do a very good job of it yesterday. This actually does happen sometimes, and we do give rewashes or refunds as long as it's immediate or at least the same day and the customer has their receipt or at least the card that they paid with. Now, this entitled customer said that he called yesterday after he got home about it, and whoever took the call from him told him that he could come back for a rewash if he had the necessary information, so he came in for that. However, he said he used a prepaid credit card that he said he threw away immediately afterwards and that he no longer had the receipt, which is already a little bit sketchy. Now, he was also able to at least supposedly remember which grade of wash he bought and at roughly what time it was. So, to try and get to the bottom of this, I searched our register's receipt log around the time that the entitled customer said that he came in, and the only receipt for a car wash at that time was for a high-grade wash. By then, my manager came over to discuss it, and I will admit he was way more heated than was necessary in dealing with the situation. In short, the manager told the entitled customer that he can't verify that he actually bought a wash if he didn't have anything that was part of the original transaction. And to top it all off, we didn't even have a receipt from the register logs that marked down the correct type of wash that he said he bought. This information, along with my manager's unnecessarily heated attitude, even though he was ultimately correct, made this entitled customer incredibly upset. In my 8 months of working at this gas station, he is definitely the angriest customer I've ever had so far. While I definitely understand getting upset by my manager's attitude, as I really wasn't a fan of what he was saying either, I don't believe it warranted such a reaction from this entitled customer. This customer kept saying that his car was not washed properly at all, and that he spent hundreds of dollars a week at our store, which is a really strange claim considering I work 4 days a week and I don't recall ever seeing him before. He even went as far as to say that he felt discriminated against, which I'm not sure where that came from, as I really didn't feel like it mattered in the situation. Eventually, the entitled customer demanded the information of our general manager just so they could complain about our experience. Now, I circled back and I asked the entitled customer if he was sure that he bought the middle grade wash, and he said yes. And then I told him about the only receipt being for a high grade wash, and when I said that to him, he changed his mind suddenly and said that he must have bought the high grade wash instead of the mid grade, and that honestly let off some very big red flags in my mind. Also, before my manager came in, I asked this stupid customer if he bought anything else alongside the car wash, and he said no. After my manager came in, I asked him again if he bought anything, and he said, I don't know, maybe my wife bought something. So my manager tried to ask for the last 4 digits of the card that this guy used, but he kept insisting that it was a prepaid card and that he didn't have the numbers. My manager tried to explain that all cards have numbers on them, but the entitled customer wouldn't have it. I asked the customer if he meant one of those Visa gift cards or something like that, and he said yes. The only thing is that those cards have 16 digits, just like any other card. He also said he threw it away immediately after paying for the car wash. So in short, this guy just wanted a rewash the day after his initial car wash, when we usually don't even do that in the first place. He didn't have his receipt, he didn't even have a card that he paid with, and he couldn't keep which grade he bought or anything else straight or try and make it consistent in any kind of way. He had literally no corroborating information, and it was just a dubious story in the beginning. Yet this guy seriously still felt entitled to demand a rewash, claim discrimination when he wasn't given one, and even demand the information of my manager's boss just to complain about him about the situation. It honestly doesn't make sense, and I seriously can't stand customers like this. I'm surprised you didn't review any kind of security footage, or if you even had cameras in the first place. I can imagine that would probably fix pretty much everything in this situation. But either way, this guy was clearly lying. He was just trying to work the system, and when he didn't get his way, he was just like, oh, you're discriminating against me. No, buddy, you're an idiot. You didn't have your receipt or your card with you, and he didn't even know what kind of wash he got for his stupid car. So whatever the truth really is, I would honestly place the blame on this stupid customer. They didn't even know what they got in the first place, and they seriously just made things worse by being super sketchy right off the get-go. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My boyfriend of 2 years is choosing to play an online multiplayer game instead instead of spending time with me on Discord. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I met through our friends on Discord. We started playing all day every day, to the point where we got super close. We started calling just outside of playing games, and we both developed feelings for each other. He would always stay on call with me if I had trouble sleeping, all the way up until I fell asleep. This became a habit, and he would basically tuck me into sleep every night. We wanted to expand our relationship, and therefore planned our first meeting. It was now about 8 months since we first met up, and in between then and now, we met up 3 more times. I'm gonna go visit him again in 3 weeks. We used to play mostly Valorant together. However, a couple of years before meeting me, my boyfriend played MMOs before switching to FPS. So when I saw a new MMO, Lost Ark, was releasing, I was thrilled for him. He did not seem that interested in Lost Ark. However, I said I would love to try it out with him if he wants to, and he agreed. Although I quickly found out how much grinding you're supposed to do in that MMO, so I did not play too often. My boyfriend, however, got completely hooked. He started playing without me and advancing further, basically making it quite impossible for us to play together. I gave up on it as I didn't really like the game, nor did I like playing it alone. I did not mind it that much, as it seemed like he was having fun. The problem is that he got completely addicted. We no longer would hang out over call every day. We don't play games every day. He won't tuck me into sleep every day anymore, and he sometimes replies really late. And I've started feeling very lonely. He has a big friend group in Lost Ark and plays it like religiously 8 hours a day, if not more. Even when we do call, we do not get a very valuable conversation because of him being focused on the game. He often dismisses my attempts for us to call because he feels drained after being in call with his friends for so long. I've started showing annoyance and sadness. I've told him about feeling lonely and missing him a lot. Every time I get vulnerable and sad with him about this topic, he apologizes and promises to spend more time with me, but nothing has changed. And this has been going on for months and months. He often says he is choosing me above his friends because of him leaving his friends to join my calls. This really hurts me, as I would love for him to just be excited that I'm calling, as I've been eager to talk to him myself without making me feel bad that he has to leave his friends for me. I'm feeling very lost on what to do. I love him very much, but I feel like I'm just grieving, and I'm trying to hold on to our relationship and how it used to be. I've only felt this way this strongly for about a month, and I've cried multiple times to him about how I'm feeling. It just seems like nothing is changing. What should I do? Your boyfriend, first off, is being incredibly toxic. He is choosing a video game over his girlfriend, and that's not fair. That really is not fair. He has his priorities all wrong, and he's not taking you seriously. And unfortunately, this is kind of the nature of the beast when it comes to having an online relationship. And that is what this is. You've tried communicating with him, you've tried to get through and make some kind of difference in him understanding how you feel, but it seems like he would much rather play video games on Lost Ark with his friends than even try to address the issues at hand that basically are spelling out that he is damaging the relationship. Look, I love video games just like the next person. I love spending time and getting into a game and really trying to get good at it or whatever it is. But when that starts to affect other aspects of my life, that's when I need to pump the brakes and be like, whoa, wait a second. I think I need to stop playing for a little bit and reassess my surroundings. And that's exactly what your boyfriend needs to do. This guy is seriously picking an MMO over his girlfriend. Like, is it really that fun of a game? I hope it is, because he's about to ruin his relationship. So hopefully your boyfriend can kind of like see what's happening and see that he's ruining pretty much everything in his life. Because I can totally see this blowing up in his face, and if he's not careful, this will probably happen sooner than later. My mom wants to reschedule my birthday for 2 weeks from now just to share it with my siblings. And this is all because my parents are under a lot of pressure after they decided to get divorced. And I really don't want this, and I seriously don't know what to do. I first want to start off by saying that I'm honestly not surprised anymore. So like a couple of weeks ago, I posted about my mom trying to take over my 16th birthday. Basically, she wanted to throw a big birthday party for her, and anything I wanted to do was considered boring to her. I was worried and stressed because I'm not good with big crowds, especially ones that surround me. But recently, my bad birthday luck has been paying off. Well, sort of, that is. So my mom and my dad have been having relationship problems, and yesterday I was woken up to them arguing over call, and basically I was thrown right into the middle of their fight once again. During their fight, I said that they should basically just get divorced, and everyone would support their divorce, even me and my little siblings. Today, I heard great news that they are actually going to divorce, which is the first time in years that they are actually doing the right thing. I was comforting my mom, and she said that we were moving into her girlfriend's house this weekend. and we've got to do all this stuff this week. Out of my own stupidity, I brought up that my birthday was this weekend. It's on a Saturday, and she said that she completely forgot. She didn't send out any invites or even start on the birthday. In fact, she forgot to even get me presents. She now wants to rework my birthday into my little sibling's birthday, which is in 2 weeks. I told her that it's fine if I get a small presents, but I won't take my sibling's birthday. That's their day and it's not mine. She said to me that it will work. Just trust her on this and that I used to do this, so it will be fine. They'll just have to understand that I'm under a lot of pressure, is what she said. One half of me is actually very happy I don't have to get dressed up and have to be surrounded by family members that'll just judge me my entire day. But the other half is disappointed that my mom is trying to move my birthday and not even move it to a Sunday or a Monday, but on my own sibling's birthday. I understand the divorce and moving all that is stressful, and honestly, I never wanted a big party or even a cake. I gave up my hopes for any of that many years ago. I just really want new art supplies, and if I'm lucky, a drawing tablet. I don't want to take my sibling's special day. I know how that feels, and I don't want them to end up like me. I've tried to get through to my mom. I don't want to do that, but she still insisted that we do it. She wants to take us to a strip mall to shop, and my little sibling would love that, but I don't want to take that over for them. I now am trying to convince her not to do this. I've even gone so far to say, if she doesn't do this, I'll let her dress me up, etc., and post it anywhere that she wants. She loves to do that, and it's embarrassing, but I'll do anything so that my siblings won't deal with me, as well as them having to share the same birthday. What should I do? First off, I just want to say it really sounds like you're in a rough situation, and I think considering all that you're going through, you're handling it as best as you can. But I totally understand where you're coming from. You don't want to share birthdays because you know what? You shouldn't have to. Even something small, even something that just gives some kind of recognition that today is my day, even if just for a little bit. I'm totally with the original poster. It wouldn't take much for your mom or any other friend that you want to bring along to just show up with a small cake and a simple singular gift. It really would not be that bad if you could just do that. So it's honestly really disappointing that your mom's doing that, and I'm so sorry that you have to deal with that. So hopefully there's some kind of solution, and hopefully you're able to get through to your mom. You clearly don't want to take over your sibling's day, and you would much rather have your birthday on its own day, just so you can enjoy it for yourself. Today, I messed up by listening to my dentist, and as a result, it cost me about $1,000 just to get fixed the things my dentist told me to wait on. And now, needless to say, I have a new dentist. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I had a badly decayed molar, and upon my dentist's recommendation, I agreed to a root canal and a crown since it no longer could be simply repaired, and this costed about $1,000. All seemed well until I went overseas to visit my family. I have a nervous habit of clenching my jaw, and on one such occasion, I heard a crack in my tooth. I thought nothing of it until I felt a toothache that evening. I messaged my dentist, who advised me to wait and see, just to see what's going on with it. Now, the tooth hurt badly for a few days, to the point where I could not sleep, but eventually stopped after that. Things were fine for a couple of months until I noticed a bump on my gums where the tooth was. I went to the dentist, and he said that the tooth had cracked further and had gotten infected, which led to an abscess and bacteria had eaten away at my jawbone. He proceeded to insert a needle into the space between my tooth and my gums. It went all the way in for about 1 centimeter. He had to take out the tooth and put in a dental implant, which would cost another $1,000. I told him I would think about it, but I had lost faith in him at that point, especially since he was the one who had told me to wait and see, and I had listened to him instead of arranging another appointment. I found another dentist through a friend, and the new dentist was more thorough. He told me that the infection had stopped just above my facial nerve, which would still allow him to give me an implant, but not before he put in some bone chips in the hole and let the bone grow back. He extracted my tooth, put in a temporary crown, and told me to return in 3 months. At my next visit, the new dentist said that the bone had healed nicely, and he was able to put a titanium screw in my jawbone and install the permanent crown on it. Well, permanent for up to 10 years, after which it would need to be replaced. Needless to say, after this terrible and costly experience, I now take much better care of my teeth. That story literally made me squirm in my seat. That sounds so unbelievably painful, I can't imagine putting up with that. And what is up with that dentist? They literally said,
Oh, I don't know, just wait and see what happens.
Dude, that really costs you a lot of money just by waiting and seeing. If there's one thing I've learned, if you hear a crack in your mouth, it's probably not good. It's not like cracking your elbow or your shoulder or anything like that. It's not like cracking your knuckles. Your teeth should not be cracking. And that guy is an idiot idiot for making you wait. I think the damage was probably already done, but like seriously, he should have been like, oh my gosh, you felt a crack? Come into my office right now, let's look at it. So hopefully this new dentist is better for you and your teeth. The other guy clearly didn't know what he was doing, or if he did, he seriously cost you a lot of money. My best friend of 25 years has gone ahead and gone with a group of friends who bullied me and treated me like garbage, and I'm seriously stuck not knowing what to do. So as the title suggests, my best friend of 25 years sided with a group of girls against me and is now best friends with the ringleader of the group that bullied me. She even just went to her wedding as a bridesmaid. Now I was friends with this ringleader from another town, and she moved here and didn't know anyone. I let her live with me rent-free for a month until she found a place of her own to rent. I introduced this girl to my friends, including my best friend of 25 years. We established a group of friends together over a couple of years. A friend of mine passed away suddenly in 2019, and I was a mess. I was snapping a lot and quite self-destructive. I felt like this group of girlfriends weren't there for me during this time and were all about toxic positivity. After I had blown up with the ringleader of the group, I decided to remove myself from the group chat on Messenger, and I did this on impulse while I was upset. After I calmed down, I called each friend to apologize the next morning, all but the ringleader. I asked to be put back into the chat on Messenger. Then one of them said that they wanted to have a group chat via Teams before they would allow me back into the Messenger chat, so I agreed. The group chat was basically an intervention, but minus the caring element. It included the ringleader plus my best friend of 25 years and the 3 other girls in the group. They all told me what they thought of me, how bad I am as a person, and that I'm basically this negative jerk that is bringing down the group vibes. They told me that I needed psychological help. I left the chat feeling absolutely worthless. Following that chat, nobody followed up with me at all. Not one person messaged me to check in whether I was okay or whether I made an appointment with a therapist. All of this happened about 4 months after my other friend passed away, who they didn't even know but was a good friend of mine. They added me back to the Messenger chat, but I didn't say anything. They carried on the group chat, sending memes and other funny pictures like nothing had happened. I didn't get any direct messages from them to me. After a few weeks though, they decided to delete me again from the chat without any word because I wasn't saying anything. It's taken me years to heal, and it all still makes me feel awful. My bestie of 25 years was a bridesmaid in the ringleader's wedding a few weeks ago, and I haven't spoken to her in about a year. I feel like the pain is sometimes so raw and recent. They're all living their best lives and all still close friends. I know how they treated me was wrong, and basically they were bullying me. I still feel like I'm the bad person like they told me I am. I guess I'm looking for thoughts and camaraderie that I am better off without them, even if they are super cool and Instagram makes them look amazing. What should I do? Honestly, these are people that you don't want to associate with. They are horrible people, and they treated you like garbage when you were in some time of need. Like, it is time now to leave these bullies and these ringleaders behind you. And I personally think you would be so much better off focusing on your own healing and avoiding these absolute jerks. They don't care about you. They only had that chat so they could all get it off their chest what they really thought about you, which was all just completely inappropriate and so uncalled for. So honestly, I would just move on with my life. If I was in your shoes, I would definitely see a therapist to try and get that help, but also take the steps to move on. You're going to be so much better off without those people, and they clearly have shown their true colors, and honestly, that is not something I would ever want to deal with in the slightest. Today, I messed up my life after trying to fix up a new home and basically ending up homeless after the contractor that I hired led me along and tricked me for several months, and I'm so angry and I don't know what to do. So this morning, I spent 5 hours waiting with the police as my contractor cleared his tools from my torn apart house. My wife and I separated last year, and I found a fixer-upper for purchase close by. A friend helped me find a contractor to fix a few things in the house while I was subleasing a place for a couple of months. This guy had health issues and took another week before showing up after he was hired. He quickly started finding more and more issues in the house and said fixing them wouldn't take too long. I trusted him since he was a friend of a friend, and I let him do the work. Over time, the project got bigger and bigger, and he kept talking me into fixing more things that were a fire hazard or not up to code. We extended the deadline by a few weeks, but he never met that deadline. He would skip days and then he wouldn't tell me. Or he'll say that he'll cover the molding days during the weekend and then just won't show up. I told him I'm going through a divorce and that I need to move in as soon as possible before my lease expires. and he guaranteed the house will be ready by then. That day came and the house still wasn't ready. He apparently only needed another week, and he kept saying that for almost 3 months. Today, I fired the contractor after another friend came to take a look and told me the house is at least a month away from ready and that I've been lied to this entire time. My contractor flipped and started threatening me. He wouldn't give me my keys back and said I was holding his stuff hostage and he's allowed to enter my house whenever to pick up his stuff. So I called the police. They came and stayed with me until he cleared his stuff out of my ripped apart house and gave me my keys back. He also stole some stuff on the way out. He also asked that I paid him for the work that he's done on top of the $10,000 he already got from me a month ago. The only available contractors that I could find so far are booked out for the next 2 months, which means I need to find a place to stay for 3 more months. They need to fix the plumbing, electrical, install the floors, work on the walls, and put the kitchen back together before the house is even livable again. The electrical system is not done, the plumbing is halfway, and there are no floors. All the walls are open, and he even took the shower apart. The kitchen cabinets are stacked on the floors because of a leak that he discovered, and the countertop broke during disassembly. I can't even camp in the house because there's no floors or running water. My lease expires in 3 days. I was supposed to move in 2 weeks ago. My future ex-wife tells me not to bother her with my problems and that I can't go back to sleep in my own office in the house that I'm still paying a mortgage for. I work from home, so I have no office to go to during the day. It's also my birthday this weekend to top it all off, and I have the kids for the next 5 days and nowhere to go. I really think I completely messed up my life. That is an awful situation. Like seriously, this guy ruined your house. He strung you along for months, saying, "Oh, I just need 1 more day to get this done," and then would just keep on lying and just completely fooling you the entire time. Like there's gotta be some legal precedent on this. If I was in your shoes, I would absolutely be looking for a lawyer of some kind, somebody to give me legal advice, because this guy was scamming you big time. And I think this is also a really nice lesson that regardless of if it's a friend of a friend, you still have every right to expect some kind of professionalism. And if someone is not doing a good job, then they absolutely deserve to be fired. So hopefully this can get figured out for you, because this really does sound like the worst case scenario, and you do not deserve this kind of treatment in the slightest. An entitled customer gets furious with me and tries to rip a laptop out of my hands that we were selling at a pharmacy. Furious with me that they weren't getting exactly what they wanted. And as a result, this customer almost fights me and claims that they're gonna get me fired. And I've honestly never been more annoyed by an entitled customer in my life. Here's what happened. Last night, I had to deal with one of the most entitled customers I've ever had the displeasure of helping. So to start things off, I work at a pharmacy. We mainly sell food and makeup and we fill prescriptions, obviously, but we also sell electronics at a ridiculously marked up price. We keep a lot of the most expensive items behind the cash register in lock and key so no one steals them. I was doing my job as a cashier and an old couple approaches me. There are a lot of elderly who shop here in the area, and I would say that most of them are rather friendly, like 99% of the time. Unfortunately, the 1% still roam here, and I could tell I was in for an inconvenient time immediately. As soon as the old man opened his mouth, he loudly inquired about one of our laptops behind the glass case, specifically the specs like the RAM and disk space. I got the keys and took it out of the glass case. You see, the thing about these laptops is that they're shipped to us in a plain brown box. The most you would learn from the box is the model number, UPS, and the serial number. I could not help them without bringing out my phone and looking it up, and that's something that my bosses don't really want me to do in front of the customers, so I couldn't be of any help. In addition, my phone wasn't even on me if I wanted to try and break the rules. The guy tells me to read the price tag, and all I can get from that is the screen size and the disk space. And while it is something per se, it's simply not enough for him. He looks at me and says, "Can you scan the barcode and see what the specs are?" And I'm just thinking to myself, no, please just ring it up in the cash register like everybody else. The woman then asked me if they can buy it and open it and then return it if they don't like it. And I explained that I can't do that. The store has a policy against returning open products, especially $350 electronics. And when I say this, they suddenly get irate, as if I'm the one who makes the policies and not just some hourly worker wishing they would just leave. I tell them, look, I'm just a worker. It's the head office that decides these things. I know it's stupid, but I can't do anything about it. Now, as I'm trying to speak to them, they just kept interrupting me, and this was specifically coming from the old man. Every time the lady tried to speak, he would shush her and then try to shush me. It was an endless loop of the same questions, asked with more more aggression and confusion each time, like some sort of feedback loop. I had an idea for a second. I write down the model number so they can look it up at home and do research that way. I was quick on my feet with that one. Not too bad of a resolution here. That is, until this entitled customer tried to grab the box out of my hands aggressively. The absolute gall of this guy. Like I'm too incompetent to read a box, yet alone the lack of manners. I turn away from his grip and I say, "No sir, you can't do that. These are behind the register for a reason. I can't give this to customers. Anyone could walk out of the store with it. It's a security policy, sir." And it was right about then that I figured out I was in harm's way. Me, the lone worker who must be making all these draconian and unreasonable policies. How dare I do my job? They thought this was a free country. The old man starts yelling at me. "How dare you? I've been in this country for 50 years. I don't need a little kid like you accusing me of stealing. You think I'm gonna steal from you? How dare you? This is ridiculous." And he went on and on and on. He repeatedly cocks his fist at me as if he's gonna try and knock my lights out. Then he lowers it and then repeats the action again. So naturally, I start to get a little bit worried. He then tries to lunge at me to grab the laptop again. So I tried to explain, these aren't my rules. These are company policies, and they surely are not personal. I mean, what else do I do? Then the woman starts squawking at me. "You should be ashamed of yourself. First you don't let us return such a thing, and now you're saying he's stealing? He's an honorable man. He would never do such a thing. What is the point of buying anything from you people?" And as always, came threats of me losing my job, simply for refusing to do things that will inevitably cost me my job. And now everybody is looking at us. I don't blame them. What else are you gonna do when you hear such a commotion? But this guy was about to throw hands. I was seriously considering just giving them the laptop because it wasn't worth this hassle of being ganged up on, and I definitely don't get paid enough for this garbage. I pleaded with them that I would call my supervisor, which I would have done earlier if they weren't giving me sensory overload. My coworker already noticed the commotion and brought the supervisor over before I could pick up the phone. She asked what's wrong, and the couple tried their best to paint me like a villain, saying that I wasn't letting them return it or that I wasn't letting them inspect it, and that I was accusing them of theft. My coworker goes on to say that I didn't do anything wrong and that that's just our policy. I mean, these guys were legitimately gaslighting me into thinking I was doing something wrong here for a second. They asked for the supervisor again, even though my supervisor is literally right next to me and a lot shorter. They say to this couple, "I am the supervisor," and the couple's face lights up. I guess they were simply amazed that the short lady was the supervisor. Now, of course, my supervisor says the exact same thing that I told them. And funnily enough, these two were actually capable of reasonable emotions, using phrases like, "I understand," and "Oh, I see," and all without the threats of physical violence. I was honestly astonished. To spray down the grease fire a bit more, she looked up the model number on her phone on the manufacturer's site. And as always, it was much cheaper on the site. So she just referred it to them and told them where to buy it. And surprisingly, they were both glad that they got what they wanted. With all my teeth and facial expressions intact, the same way that they were 10 minutes ago, they both left and thanked my supervisor for the help. And you guessed it, of course I got no apology. My supervisor flipped them the bird on the way out behind their backs. She had already given her 2 weeks notice, so she had literally nothing to lose. Both of my coworkers tell me I did nothing wrong, but I was so very unreasonably shaken up, so I had to take a breather. This is yet another example of that classic retail trope. The first person you speak to just doesn't know anything, but the second person always does. Also, threatening minimum wage workers, no matter how explicit or implicit said threats are, will always work out. But also, good coworkers will stand up for you and help you out in the wake of these threats, which can be hard to come by these days. So what's my advice to this lovely couple? Next time, go to some place like Best Buy, where they give you, I don't know, a warranty and a chance to inspect the item freely. This all could have been prevented if they were educated on what they were fighting for. Literally an overpriced laptop from a pharmacy. Yeah, the couple in this story were completely out of line. There's no reason for them to talk to you like that, and the fact that this guy basically tried to rip this out of your hands and potentially steal it really is just an indication of how awful they are. And the original poster has it right. It's always the second person that seems like a genius when the first person in customer service doesn't give them exactly what they want. So just be glad that you have coworkers who had your back. They saw exactly what happened, and they defended you against this weird entitled couple. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked down below in the description. My boyfriend suddenly told me that in 2 months he's gonna study abroad in France, and I feel so caught off guard guard and so frustrated, and I seriously don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I have been dating since October of 2021, and we've had a few rough patches in the past. We've always had problems with communicating and being transparent. I try my best to be as open as I can be, and I feel like I do a decent job at it. However, my boyfriend rarely ever brings anything up and shuts down anytime I bring anything up. 2 weeks ago, he randomly told me that he got accepted to study abroad in France. Although it would be just for about 2 months, I was never even told that he applied to such an opportunity. He told me that he applied back in January, but didn't think he should tell me because he didn't think he would get accepted. I got really upset because this was said so unexpectedly and nonchalantly, and he didn't tell me that he applied over 3 months ago. He told me he wanted to go on vacation with me since January, when in reality, he is most likely just going to France. And this wasn't just any vacation, but it was for my graduation. And now I feel like I can't go because it's too late to ask any of my friends. A week after the news of the acceptance, I decided to bring up the topic again because I would like to know what to expect, especially because if he was to go, it would be in a month. I brought up vacation and asked him if he made the decision to go to France or not. And when I did this, he shut down and he got frustrated that the topic was even brought up. Eventually, he got even more frustrated with me and raised his voice by saying, "You are pressuring me to make a decision. Fine, I am going to France." I got even more upset because I don't think I did anything wrong, and I do deserve to know what is going on. He has a semi-plan of what the France trip would look like, and I'm 99% sure that he will go, but I'm waiting to hear it from him. Because it was 9 p.m. and we had to wake up early that day, he left to go home as I was still upset. It made me feel bad that he left me upset and didn't even give me a hug or a stupid pat on the back just to make sure I'm okay before leaving. Ever since he left on Sunday, I haven't received a call from him or was asked if I would like to talk about it. He tells me that he is aware that he isn't good at communicating, but to me, it's just so unfair. I feel like he doesn't care or include me in the picture. And in fact, I don't think he sees the bigger picture at all. He texts me and we are both pretty cold to one another. He wants us to have a normal conversation, but unfortunately, after everything, I don't know how normal it can be. That is, unless we continue to sweep everything under the rug and pretend nothing is happening, which I'm sick of doing. He's able to move on from unfinished and unresolved stuff, but I literally can't do it anymore. I feel like my bucket is overflowing at this point, and I seriously don't know what to do. This is definitely a rough situation. He just springs it on you all of a sudden that, hey, I'm gonna be going to France for a little bit. Like, yeah, that would probably really upset me as well. Like, that's kind of a thing you want to know ahead of time, just so you can try and properly prepare for that inevitably happening. Like, it really does sound like he just does not communicate with you in the slightest. And you also don't sound like a team. Like, his decision to apply for this and then not say anything to you at all, like ever, really seems like kind of a selfish decision, especially when you consider the scope of your relationship being a relationship. Like, he literally didn't involve you in this, and anytime there is a decision to be talked about, he doesn't want you involved. And that's like really annoying. I think I would go nuts if I had to deal with that. So hopefully this can get figured out between the two of you, because your boyfriend really is kind of being toxic in this moment, and I think he needs to learn how to communicate with you better, because otherwise it's just going to cause problems in the future. A server I work with accidentally took a credit card home from a customer, and as a result, another one of my coworkers is getting thrown under the bus for this mistake, and it seriously seems unfair and I don't know what to do. So I currently work at an all-you-can-eat restaurant as a food runner, and a server took a customer's credit card on accident a few days ago. At this restaurant, we all share tips, and any tip we get from the customers, no matter how it's given, must be given to the host, which is then counted at the end of the night. We get tipped out on our bi-weekly paychecks. No server is officially assigned to a table or section, so everyone pretty much just runs around and helps any table that needs help. On this particular night, we had 4 servers, a food runner, which is me, and a busser with no host and a manager. Servers were sitting and closing our tables whenever anyone was available. On this busy night, an 8-top arrives at around 7:30, and one of the servers insists on taking this table. This customer tends to side tip a lot, and this server knows this. And this server in question also tends to steal side tips and has been caught before, but is always given a warning because he's been with the restaurant the longest. We'll call him John. That's not his real name. At around 8:45, the server that is blamed for all of this is frantically asking everyone if they had seen that table's credit card. Let's call her Jane. Jane is not her real name. Jane is looking everywhere and is in a panic. She tries to find John, but he clocked out and had gone home without telling anyone, which is a classic classic move for John. She calls John, but he doesn't pick up. She then calls the manager, but he just tells her to ask the owner in her office. Jane tells the owner everything, and she is furious. She tries calling John, but he doesn't pick up again. He starts texting me, "Why is the owner calling?" And I tell him that we are looking for the 8 Tops credit card, but he ends up telling me that he doesn't have it. I tell him to call the owner because she is furious. The customer tells us that they gave John the credit card before they sat down. The owner keeps calling and calling, but eventually he picks up and is told to come back. The customers are waiting 30 minutes by this point, and they are threatening to leave. All the while, the server is telling the customer to please wait, and the server is coming back with a card. While we are waiting for John, the customer goes up to the owner and starts yelling about walking out. The owner then starts yelling that you have to pay or we are going to call the police. But they end up walking out before John could get here. He shows up 10 minutes later with the card. At this point, John and the owner are trying to call their phone number from the reservation list, but they don't pick up and their card is declined when charged. The owner then turns around and blames Jane for giving the check late, but not to John. Today, I heard the owner look through the cameras and saw the customer had slipped the credit card with no cash into John's apron when they sat down. I don't know if he didn't notice or he thought he could side tip and try not to notice, but the owner is still blaming Jane for not giving the check earlier. Now, knowing the owner, I'm pretty sure they're gonna try and make Jane pay for the almost $500 bill that they left. So honestly, whose fault do you think it is here? It just blows my mind that Jane is being blamed for all of this just because she didn't give the check earlier. I feel like giving the check earlier would not have helped with anything, and this all just seems incredibly unfair. The only people to blame in this situation are John and the owner. John for leaving early and not finishing up his table, but also the owner for not assigning servers specific tables. Like, this is what happens when you don't do this correctly. If they had just had specific tables and allowed servers to get their own tips, this all could have been avoided. But now, because it's basically a free-for-all and everybody can go pretty much wherever they want, this is what's gonna happen. Things are gonna get slipped through the crack and there's not gonna be any accountability. And the only accountability that's gonna be found is whoever the owner can blame. And Jane just happened to be in the crossfire. And that's not fair in the slightest. Like, that really is unfair. John should be held accountable for the table that he waited on, and Jane absolutely should not be thrown under the bus. My mother has been incredibly toxic towards my wife, and now I'm at a loss on what to do. So I recently got married to a lovely woman in my current country of residence, and my mom lives in a different country. She introduced herself to my wife a month ago via the phone. Now, for a little bit of context, my mother was a housewife her entire life, since my father was able to provide for the entire family back then when prices were more affordable. In my current country of residence, inflation has forced both my wife and me to work full-time jobs just to meet our expenses, and we balance the household chores together. Out of the blue, my mother says that she wants to talk to the both of us. When my wife and I are on the phone with my mom, she randomly says stuff like, "I used to polish shoes with my kids and my husband. I used to wait for my husband to come home after his work, and he would be so stressed out and I would calm him down." She goes on and on about how a woman should take care of the house while the husband is the sole breadwinner. I interjected my mother by saying that my wife works as hard as me at her office and we will balance our lifestyle. To that, my mother rudely interrupts me, saying that her husband ran an entire office, and then goes on to speak about my father's occupation without acknowledging my wife. Finally, my mom looks at my wife's picture, in which she made a snide remark saying her makeup wasn't great and she didn't have to wear makeup as a natural beauty was best. Now, when she said this is when I was shocked, and I saw my wife start to tear up. It was her first long conversation with my mother, and this was right after we got married, and she didn't feel welcome at all. I hate my mom for trying to relay her personal opinions, as well as her life history, as some kind of life lesson. Her lifestyle is unsustainable in this moment of time. I pacified my wife, and I phoned my mother to understand what in the world was wrong with her, but she's unapologetic. She's my mother, but I feel like she's so toxic. She's visiting next month, and I don't want her to ruin the mood in our marriage. How do I set any kind of boundaries with my mom? What should I do? So first off, I think you need to know that your mom is unapologetically rude. So I think you need to set some serious expectations from the get-go if you want to be serious about this. I mean, if I was in your shoes and my wife had just been offended in that way and had started to tear up and start to cry because of these comments, I would say to her, okay, let's get you a hotel that you can stay in. There's no way she's going to stay in my home in the slightest. And the extent of that visit is going to be a small visit at that. Like, I really am a firm believer that you don't need to put put yourself in the path of toxic people. And that doesn't matter if they're family members, your mom, your dad, whoever. If they want to be toxic and they want to be nasty people to the ones you love the most, then congratulations, there's gonna be problems and there's gonna be consequences for them. So truly, in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be supporting my wife in this situation. I would be reminding her that yes, you love her, and that no, your mom is not gonna get between you and her. Today, I messed up by letting myself get scammed at Walmart, and I honestly feel really dumb and I wish it didn't happen. So I had some random lady approach me in Walmart today, asking to help her buy baby formula. As a dad and someone that was raised by an immigrant single mom who has to clean strangers' houses for food, this really hit home. In my mind, if she's willing to submit herself to the shame of asking strangers for help, the least I could do is indulge her and help. So we make our way to the baby aisle and she grabs 3 cans of the most expensive specialized formula. Of course, alarm bells are ringing at this point, but I'm still trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. I thought, well, maybe she's stocking up if she's really struggling and her baby may have specific needs. Then she asked for medicine and bottles, and it made me think, why on earth does she have 4 of the same medicines? Whatever, I'm still trying to be compassionate and not judge. We saunter up to the checkout aisle and she's making me uncomfortable with how close she's getting. Now, I'm already on high alert at this point, so I'm taking precautions. First and foremost, I use a CRD that I know has a set limit as I see the price go up and up until we get to $300. Okay, I think to myself, this is clearly BS. I won't deny her the medicine, but I'm not getting all those cans, mostly because I know my card's going to decline. It has a $500 limit, so I run the card and it declines. So I say that we're gonna have to pick what she actually needs. And when I say this, she begins to panic. So we take off 2 of the 3 cans of formula that she got, and we keep the medicine and the baby bottles. As we walk out, she keeps asking for the receipt. Now, I'm not about to give her the receipt, and it's on my phone anyways. So I let her take a partial picture of said receipt and only let her see the date and what she had specifically asked to purchase. It was obviously a scam, so I go back inside and I warn the employees. Suffice to say, I'm out about $200, but frankly, I'd rather be a gullible, compassionate idiot than some scam artist who tries to scam people in Walmart. Why on earth would you go through with that purchase? If you knew this was a scam, why would you not just be like, whoa, I'm not paying for this. Sorry, you're gonna have to find somebody else to pay for this. Like, there's no way I would pay $200 to somebody who I knew was gonna try and scam me. That's just not gonna happen. This seems like a really dumb way of handling this situation, and frankly, I can't think of a better way to get back at this person than to publicly humiliate them at the aisle checkout. Announce to the store, hey, this lady's scamming me, or something like that. It's obvious they were just trying to get the receipt so that they could return the items on another day, but like, you shouldn't have even let them get to that point in the slightest. So next time, maybe be more vigilant with your money. There's no reason you should have helped this lady out in the slightest, especially when you knew it was a scam right from the get-go. A group of students that I was mentoring for a school project demanded that I stop bothering them, claiming that they don't need my help for their project. So I decide to maliciously comply, and as a result, they fail their project and try to blame me in the process. Here's what happened. So this story is somewhat fresh, and I'm still smirking when I remember it, so I decided to share it with the world. For some background, I'm a 27-year-old female, I work in IT, and I'm a well-respected and known member of the IT party circle. Now, I'm not jaw-dropping, but people know me, and I have a very good reputation. One of the things is that I got to the point in my career where I wanted to give back, so I started to mentor others. Mostly, I mentored adults, or those who were closer to me in age. I would give career advice, how to apply for different exchange programs that can boost your professional growth, as well as ways to improve your speaking and writing skills. But I was always one who was up for the challenge, and I decided to try and mentor some kids. It is not a secret that IT and STEM are increasingly popular right now, and more people want to get into the field. Therefore, there are myriads of boot camps, hackathons, and mentoring programs for all ages. So I signed up for one such program as a mentor. I would teach kids how to code with blocks, tell them what AI is, and how to develop an MVP. And I'm sure it sounds more complicated than it looks at first glance, especially when you're an educated professional with a degree, explaining concepts that are rather complicated to children who may have less than 1/50th of your tech knowledge. I also must add that participation in the said program gives these kids credits and can help them get into better schools or even be eligible for some university scholarships later in life. So there are only positives of being a part of this, if you ask me. The only thing is that you must upload the project to the site before the deadline, and that fact is going to be very important towards this story. So I was was assigned 2 team members. It was primary, which was early middle school, which was Team A, as well as high schoolers, which was Team B. Both teams had 5 members, and the youngest on the team was about 8 years old on A team. And I thought to myself, oh my god, that's gonna be tough, especially when I was thinking about A team, and how I was pretty sure I was up for a tough time. Also, since they are so young, the parents of the kids must observe Team A's meetings, as well as my lessons. But ironically, despite my worries, even with the help from the parents, the kids in Team A were doing great. But the same can't be said about Team B. Now, here are 2 rules that are very important to this project. For starters, at least 1 meeting has to happen per week, and at least 50% of the group must be present. And the second rule involves communication. When I type something like task to do or reply to a question asked before, I ask the team to respond to me. Not even a text message. A thumbs up emoji would even be fine. We all know that red status doesn't mean much. When you can accidentally open an app for a second and swipe it to clear the RAM on the phone. So Team A attended all the meetings and responded to my assignments. There was a curriculum provided by the program to follow, and they were very receptive overall. When Team B started, on the other hand, they were okay, but then they started not showing up on meetings and leaving assignments on red, and they were completely unresponsive. I understand they have a lot on their plate. Exams are no joke, but they disregarded my time, which I will not be okay with. I have a job to do, and mentoring in that program was 100% volunteer, and there was no payment for the mentors. There was, however, a very strict deadline, the middle of April, when their MVPs must be loaded onto the website for later judgment. And even though I was really upset and a little bit angry, I am a professional first. So I wrote multiple messages asking for updates on the project, with warnings at the end of the message, basically reminding them that April 15th is the deadline. You don't want to miss it. After one such message, the so-called leader of Team B by the name of Jane wrote the following. Also, Jane is not the real name. She said, hi, I know that you probably mean well, but you only bother the team with those deadline messages. Can't you chill out? When we need you, we will contact you. Just get out of our hair and let us do our jobs. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings. It is what it is. Now, after I read that message, I said to myself, what is she talking about? But I did respond by saying that I would stop messaging if that caused any kind of tension in their team, while still reminding them that the deadline is the 15th, and the site would reject any application that was uploaded after that day. She responded by saying, just stop, okay? Jeez. And when Jane said that, I washed my hands of this situation completely. And since that message, I haven't written anything to Team B. I had scheduled no meetings, no updates, or checkups about the curriculum or their understanding. And I had not written down any reminder of the deadline, not once since that conversation. The deadline comes around and Team A uploaded their project with no issues. And their parents even bought me a nice box of chocolates as a thank you gesture, just for all the help that I provided. And just like the deadline came and went, Team B started bombarding my chat, asking me to help because something's wrong with the site. We can't upload our project. I entered the chat and I said to them, yes, it will not upload. No, it's not the issue with the site. The deadline has passed. So if you try to upload, it will only show you an error message. I tried to warn you. And the best part is that there's no extra credits. There's no nothing. The rules of that program are simple, but there are very hard no exception rules as well. Team B then tried to blame me, saying that as a mentor, it was my job to ensure that they would succeed. I reminded them that my job as a mentor is to provide support and guidance, as well as keep track of their progress and remind them of the deadline, which all of the above, Jane had asked me not to do. And since I respected their boundaries, I did exactly what they had requested. They can sulk as much as they want. I have all of their communications in writing, so they don't have a leg to stand on when trying to accuse me of sabotaging them in the program. So at the end of the day, this is all entirely their fault. What a funny story. These kids probably thought they were being slick by telling you to buzz off and to stop bothering them, when in reality, they had a literal professional on their hands that could probably help them much more than any of them could combined. Like, what a bunch of idiots. And this is the result of your actions. Like, actions have consequences. And if you don't live up to your deadlines, this is what's gonna happen to you. And what's even better is that when they didn't get their way and they weren't able to upload their stupid project online, they then tried to blame the mentor and be like, no, it's your fault that you didn't help us. And it's like, what are you talking about? You literally said, no, you cannot help us out. We don't want your help. Get out of here. Like, this is literally their own doing. So it's really cool to see the original poster stand their ground and maliciously comply in such a hilarious way. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius? Check it out, link down below in the description. A customer at my drive-thru window doesn't understand the most simplest of instructions despite having a job at a billion-dollar corporation, and I'm honestly blown away by how stupid this guy was. Here's what happened. So it's the graveyard shift at this humble gas station slash food mart, and as per usual, I've locked the main door and I'm doing business through the night teller window. It's not a complicated device. A drawer slides out to the customer to accept money or credit cards. Then I pull it in, put what they want into the tray with their change, and slide it back to them. Ta-da, quick and easy, right? But no, some people just can't grasp that simple concept. What really boggles my mind is that in this area, we get customers who are highly paid technical engineers for billion-dollar corporations, and they're completely dumbfounded by a simple moving drawer that can only do one thing: go in and out. It's been a mechanical principle for thousands of years, and they really should know this one. Just now, I had to explain what to do to one of the aforementioned engineers who wanted to buy something. Pretty commonly, the public wants to use their phone app to pay for stuff, which means they have to put their phone in the tray so I can tap the reader by the register. And no, before you ask, we are not going to put an expensive reader on a wire that you could probably guess some drunk clown will rip out of the wall. Now, his confusion started as soon as I slid the door out to him. Instead of setting it aside, he held up his phone like I was going to scan the app with the lasers from my eyes. So I told him that he needs to put it in the drawer and added a helpful visual aid of pointing at the drawer poking out at him. Studying the mechanics of the thing intently, he proceeded to put his whole arm up to the elbow into the slot without releasing the phone in the first place. And as you could guess, this got us nowhere, because with his arm jammed in there, I couldn't move anything, which then leads to my second instruction. I say to him, please let it go, but somehow this was still beyond his comprehension. But at least he took his arm out. As this guy who makes more money than me in a week than I can make in a whole year stood hopelessly defeated by a coasting tray, I outlined the procedure clearly for him once again. I said to him, put it in the drawer and let it go. Still believing that this mechanical magic could be physically possible, he set the phone on the tray and slowly started pushing it towards the back of the drawer in the manner that got his arm stuck there in the first place. So I shouted out again, let it go. How could he not be getting this? Don't they have keyboard trays at their desk that they work with all the time? So I just kept repeating that he needs to let it go, please. He finally stepped back in terror that I was about to start singing that stupid song and give him an earworm. So I took advantage of his fear of show tunes and slipped the drawer and his phone into my cashier clutches. Now, when I did this, you would think that he had witnessed a modern miracle, and getting his phone back as well as what he was buying through the tray, reverse Uno style, just blew his ever-loving engineering mind. As someone who used to work at a bank and dealt with those drawers on a daily basis, let me tell you something. People really are dumb when it comes to those drawers. Like, they seriously just don't know how to work it. They put their arms where they shouldn't be, they drive up entirely too close to you, and they ignore every single instruction you ever give them. It is literally obnoxious, and I totally understand where the original poster is coming from. And I'm totally with them on this one. Why on earth can an engineer not figure this out? Like, literally just put your stuff in there and then move on with your life. And there's also the idea that maybe he just didn't want to give up his phone and he just wanted to scan it. But you know what? If you didn't want to give up your phone, then maybe you shouldn't be paying with your phone. Like, sometimes they need to take it, scan it, and then give it back. It's not like the cashier's gonna take the phone and run off with it. Like, come on. The original poster goes on to say that the card reader is about 6 feet away from the night teller window, which makes sense assuming that they probably had to go like towards the front of the store just to charge this specific type of card. I've seen that at other jobs, so it kind of makes sense. So I don't really blame the original poster for getting frustrated. They were giving some pretty clear instructions, and it's kind of mind-boggling that somebody so smart could have this difficult of a time with something so simple. My coworker secretly went through my purse and violated my privacy, and as a result, he got fired, and now my coworkers are treating me so differently, and I seriously now don't know what to do. So I first want to start off by saying that this is a thing that has been bothering me for a month now, so I really need some perspective here, as I don't have a lot of friends to discuss this with, so I really just need some advice. So last month, while getting ready to go out with my friends, I realized that I had left my purse in my work locker, so I immediately called my supervisor by the name of John, that's not his real name, to see if he could check and see if it was there, and to keep it with him as I was on my way to try and collect it. He agreed, found it, and kept it with him. I had to take the bus to my workplace, and it was later than I thought. John had to leave as something urgent came up, and he texted me that he left his phone with my other coworker. So when I got there, I collected my purse from my other coworker and I went out with my friends. So at night, my coworker by the name of Mark, also not his real name, sent me a picture of me from my purse with a smiling face caption. And this wasn't a typical picture. It was a picture of me in a bikini, one from the front and one from the back. Now, for further context, I had this picture in my purse, but it was literally hidden away in my purse. So he clearly had to go through my purse just to find the picture. Now, when I asked him what this was all about, he admitted that his coworker had accidentally left my purse on the table. So he, feeling curious, went through my purse and found that picture and thought it was hot. I told him to delete the image right now because it violated my privacy, and he thankfully said that he would. The following day when I returned to work, he asked me if he could see my back and look at the tattoo under my chest. And when he said that, I felt unbelievably violated and honestly scared. I went to my boss and I just started crying. He told me to report this to HR, and I did just that. After investigating, they fired Mark. Now, the issue is, Mark's girlfriend has been going around telling people that I planted the picture there on purpose just to try and get with Mark. And some of my other coworkers also think I overreacted and I should have just brushed it off because he probably meant it as a joke. And ever since that, I've been feeling unbelievably uncomfortable working there now, and I'm considering if I should just quit. I really enjoy working there, and I don't know how long it would take me to find a job. If I do quit, do I explain to my new employer why I quit? And will that paint me in a bad way? What should I do? It really sounds like Mark's girlfriend is about to get fired as well, because to me, this sounds like retaliation. She is literally going around the workplace, making up lies about you, and trying to ruin your reputation. That is not allowed. She is clearly breaking the rules, and HR absolutely could fire her for that. And let's think about the hypothetical for a second. Let's assume that you did put that picture in your purse on purpose. The very fact that he went through your purse, violated your privacy, and took pictures of your body without your consent is in and of itself unbelievably creepy, and he absolutely deserved to be fired. Like, that guy is a weirdo, and there is literally no excuse for that type of action. So if I was in your shoes, I would not quit. You've worked too hard to get that job, and from the sounds of it, it seems like you really enjoy this job. So I think maybe it's time to shake off the shame and decide right now to get angry and stand up for yourself. Be loud and don't take no for an answer. Record everything and anything that this lady has done to you and report it all to HR. Like, think about it. They are clearly already on your side, and you can bet they don't want you to get a lawyer involved just to try and force their hand. They want this to go over as smoothly as possible, and they don't want to be on your bad side. I mean, you've already proven that this guy's an absolute creep, and now his girlfriend's going around trying to retaliate against you? Like, I don't think so. That's not okay, and that cannot fly. What the girlfriend is doing is harassment in the workplace, and if I was in your shoes, I would report them and absolutely pursue this to the furthest extent. My teacher bullied me into calling my boyfriend in the middle of class, and I was so shocked by the way she acted, as well as the disrespectful manner in which she controlled her classroom. Here's what happened. So when I was in high school, I was taking calculus. The teacher, we'll call her Mrs. Smith, that's not her real name, was notorious for picking favorites and despised all others. I unfortunately was the latter half, despite trying my best at every turn to do my best and get her to like me in some kind of way. She would find the smallest things to take points off of my homework and my notes, and it got to the point where I would compare with others sitting next to me who wouldn't be getting points off for the exact same things. This is the kind of pettiness and hatred that she had towards me. She liked my boyfriend, who is now my husband, a lot more than me, and he had the same class 2 periods after me. He was a senior, and this will be important later. Mrs. Smith was also well known for never tolerating someone missing class for any reason. She would throw a fit when athletes would be out for a tournament and would tell them that they had to turn their work in even if they weren't going to be there. So many students would come in on those days with 4 other people's homework just to turn it in for them. I mean, God forbid you were sick. Good luck trying to get the notes or even the homework on those days. My high school had an ongoing deal with the seniors each year to combat the senior skip day tradition. Attendance rules stated that the less absences you had, the less finals that you had to take. So if you didn't miss school, you didn't have to take the finals. And this is something all the seniors wanted. The school would hold graduation practice on a school day, and if the seniors showed up and didn't cause any issues during the practice, they'd be free to go home the rest of the day and not be marked as absent. Mrs. Smith hated this agreement and tried every year to get administration to go back on it, but it was all to no avail. On the day of graduation practice, I walked into my class and was immediately confronted by Mrs. Smith. She told me I needed to contact my boyfriend boyfriend right then in front of her class and tell him that he needed to be in class today or she was going to mark him absent. I tried telling her that it was the graduation practice and they had them turn off their phones, but she simply wouldn't have it. So in front of the entire class, I had to call my boyfriend, which of course went straight to voicemail, and she had me leave a message telling him what she told me to say. For some reason, she was really upset that he wouldn't pick up, as if I was the magic contact that would turn his phone on. My boyfriend texted me an hour later, asking if I was serious about the message. I confirmed it, and he was totally upset because they had just given the seniors permission to go home. He then immediately drove to the school and went to the door of her room right before the class started. He asked Mrs. Smith from the door if she really said all of that to me, and she confirmed that she had. My boyfriend then said, "Okay, well, I'm here. I'm going to go home now." Mrs. Smith then snapped at him. She said, "If you don't come sit down and walk away instead, I'm going to mark you absent. I don't care what the principal will say." My boyfriend looked her in the eyes and said, "Okay," and then just walked away, going immediately to the front office and asked to talk to the assistant principal. He said when the secretary asked him what this was all about and he relayed the whole story, the secretary picked up the phone, called the assistant and said, "You need to come down here. You know who is up to it again." The assistant principal heard my boyfriend tell the story again, and he was livid. Neither of us saw this, but according to some friends there, she walked down to Mrs. Smith's classroom right then and there and pulled her out of the class. While I can't say what was said because I have no idea, he was immediately allowed to go home with no worries about an absence, and the both of us received apologies from the office, as well as from Mrs. Smith herself. The last few weeks of school after that were kind of a nightmare for the both of us because she tried every kind of petty attempt to try and ruin our day. To this day, I still can't believe she stuck around after that year and actually retired last year from that school. In all honesty, she should have been fired a long time ago, and her actions were entirely inappropriate. Honestly, people like that should not be teachers. Like, she is legitimately just an awful person. Like, who in their right mind would try to lord over their classroom and pretend like, "Oh, I'm above the principal. If you don't show up to class, I'm gonna mark you absent." Like, no lady, that's not how this works. If the principal and the school administration says, "Hey, you can miss after this day," I'm gonna do just that. I'm gonna leave early and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, that is so wildly inappropriate, it's not even funny. And also, why would this lady make the original poster call their boyfriend in the middle of class? Like, if I was in their shoes, I would have been like, "Nope, I am not doing it. There's no way I'm gonna call him. I'm not doing that for you." Because that's just so rude. Like, what do you expect? He's a senior and he was asked to turn his phone off before going to the graduation ceremony. Like, how does that not compute with this stupid lady? And I'm totally with the original poster here. Mrs. Smith absolutely should have been fired a long time ago. She is clearly not a good teacher, and she is not somebody who should be even pretending to care about these kids. And it is always so much worse when you have a teacher who picks favorites. Like, they just handpick some students and say, "You, I like you," and then they just completely ignore everybody else and don't give anybody else any kind of slack. That, in my opinion, is the mark of a terrible person, and I think this lady should have been fired a long time ago. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.